This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr. Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an IRONCLAD original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. My guest today, Chris Albanese, former Secret Service agent, author, and one of the hosts of the Crew Reviews podcast. Awesome guy. His book, Drone Kings, it's not available yet, but I got an early sneak peek at it. It is awesome. I really appreciate him sharing that with me. And now, without further ado, Chris Albanese. All right. What's up, man?
Hopefully that fucking thing doesn't ring.
What is it? What's going on? What's over there?
Just this fucking work shit.
Well, what's work now?
It's an independent agency within the Federal Reserve Bank that I helped stand up after I left the Secret Service.
That sounds shady.
So I was like,
no.
That
immediately sounds shady to me.
Not at all.
No, I just set up this little thing with the Federal Reserve Bank. Knock. Is someone gonna be knocking on my door right here? This is all a setup.
It's all about consumer protection, actually.
Oh, really? So you transferred over to something else.
Yeah. I had the opportunity. I just opened up and I was like, fuck, dude, I got to get out of the Secret Service because I was traveling too much. My wife was traveling to get the two young kids. And I put in, they're like, you're exactly the guy we're looking for to help us start this up. And I was like, all right, let's do it.
No kidding. So that counts as is that like in the military, you'd call it a lateral transfer or something like that? So you transfer over.
But here's the thing, lateral transfer.
But do you lose time?
I don't lose time. Oh, nice. They pay me more money. And no one's trying to fucking kill me.
Hey, so, well, that doesn't sound lateral. That sounds like, a step up, or I guess, or a step down, depending on what you're into, I guess. It's
low key and pays more and allows me to work from home. So, dude, it's the best of both worlds.
Nice. We'll keep that on, and if it rings, pick it up, and we'll just edit it out. So just do it, man. But it's awesome. I'm so looking forward to this because that's what I love most about this podcast is that like we wouldn't probably pick up the phone right now unless we're like texting back and forth about if I have a question about the Secret Service or you have something or whatever. Then we'll go back and forth a few times, and then that's it. And then we'll link up on like your podcast
later, 2 months,
on the Crew Reviews, and we'll sit down, whatever. But there's other people on it, at the same time because you have three other hosts. So I was really looking forward to this, just to being able to hang out for a little bit.
Pretty cool, dude. Thanks for this opportunity too. I got to tell you though, Mike and Sean were like, if you don't mention the Crew Reviews, you're like kicked out of the show.
We'll mention them a few times. I feel like I should have whiskey in front of me, but it's a little early. Early.
It's never early. Dude.
Oh, look at nice. You got the High West. I'm gonna have to ask you to start sending those to me because I have these whiskey glasses. Oh, here they are, right here. So I've got these whiskey glasses right here.
I saw those. We were talking about those in our DMs.
Yeah.
Me, Mike, and Sean were like, those things are fucking beautiful. Who's doing those? We want to hire.
Well, exactly. So it took forever because I've been wanting to do this for like 3 years. So it's been on my list.
We spoke about that. Yes.
And so I'm like, I gotta figure this out, but I can't just like go to some company that does merch, quote unquote, and then they'll throw your logo on something. And it's just like a brittle, I have to do it different. I have to go next level. So it took like 3 years to figure all this out. So we got whiskey bottles from High West, and then we sent them to somebody, and they cut it and sand it and all that stuff and engrave it all that. So it's the actual whiskey bottle, like the one you have there. But now I got to start collecting them because, I don't drink that much. I mean, I shouldn't drink that much whiskey.
No, you really shouldn't. No.
But so I need to. Maybe I have to ask you to send those. Yeah, I have to ask you to send those to me.
Definitely. But it totally makes sense now because I was like, that glass. I'm like, how the fuck did he get that glass like that? And it's the bottle.
It's the bottle. Yeah, it says Park City on the back right there. So they're pretty serious. Like this thing, dude. I think if I dropped it, I don't think it would break. Like from maybe maybe way up here, but not down there.
Jack Carr never does anything half-assed.
I mean, I just don't. But it took 3 years.
Yeah, well, you should see what we did with our glasses, and we have warned people like don't fucking wash it.
Don't wash. I know you told me when you sent it to me. Don't wash it. Don't breathe on it wrong. Like
just look at it. Throw it on a bookshelf. Put it on a shelf. Somewhere.
Exactly. I would have one that would double as a weapon. I like that dual purpose type of a thing. So a lot of the merch that I have does fulfill both both roles in a pinch.
Yeah, I hear you, bro. It's either a shovel or fucking bludgeon.
Everything. Yes.
Anyway,
I like to test the kids. Like, what's the best weapon? And my daughter will be like,
oh, I can only imagine you as their dad. Oh,
but my daughter will still do it. Even that she's 17 now, but even when she was like 6, I'd ask her, what's the best weapon? And she'd be like, the mind. That's right. Dude, but she still does it today. She still does it.
Bro, I just had that conversation with my 12-year-old. He's like, Dad, when are you going to teach me how to fight? Like, I want to be able to fight, whatnot. I said, dude, what's your greatest weapon? He's like, well, my elbows and my knees, because we talk about that stuff all the time. I'm like, no, you idiot. What's your greatest weapon? He's like, yeah, my brain. I'm like, yeah, use that. If you can avoid getting into a fight, that's the first thing. I'm like, fighting is the very last thing that you want to have to do.
Awesome.
I'm like, you've never been punched in the face before. He goes, yeah, but I'm like, you ever see stars? He goes, that's a real thing.
You got to get him in the ring. Just a little, get the pads going, just a little bit,
knocking the head.
Yeah. My little guy's like a natural boxer. It's weird. Like he just, for whatever reason, like elbows in, hands are up, and he's got some killer jabs and crosses and
moving his head.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Yeah, and he's only seen Rocky a couple times, so I don't know where it comes from. That for him, it's just for him it is, I guess. But we're gonna get the mitts going and get a little more serious about it here as he gets a little bigger.
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do with my son Logan. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we'll take some jiu-jitsu classes together, bro. I'm like, maybe we'll do some of that. And he goes, yeah, that's like grappling on the ground and stuff. I'm like, bro, every fight goes to the ground. So,
Good to know for that foundation. My little guy, we've done a little jiu-jitsu together. I mean, he was in it depending on what he's doing, skiing or lacrosse or whatever. There's seasons for some of this stuff, but he's doing some jiu-jitsu. But he doesn't like it as much. He likes to stand up and throw hands. This kid. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. So, hey, if that's what he's into, I'm going to definitely not discourage it. It's a good foundation to have. That's for sure. And you get some hand-to-hand stuff going on in the novel and Drone Kings, which I loved, by the way. It was awesome.
Thanks for reading that, bro.
Of course.
Appreciate that.
Of course. No, it's really good. And I mean, so good. You won, what award did you win? It's won like a couple awards, right?
No, the Clive Cussler. The Adventure Writers Competition, Clive Cussler. I ended up somehow winning that fucking thing. That's figure.
Amazing. That is so cool.
Pretty cool.
So you submit it, and then it goes into, I guess, to a board or something, and they read it.
Yeah.
And then
so the crazy thing was because we have I have that book podcast I do with the crew reviews, and we interviewed Boyd Morrison, who was writing Clive Cussler, co-authoring Clive Cussler's Oregon File Stories. And doing my due diligence, went back and was like, what's going on? And I was like, holy shit, there's a writing competition that's been going on for like almost 10 years.
Was it in the acknowledgments or something? Where was that? How'd you find out about that?
It was on the website, the Clive Cussler website. And I was like, wow, it's part of the, like, when you become Clive Cussler, and you may get there, I think you're pretty close to it. But he has like a whole society of collectors of his books and and all the other stuff that he's put out. And so, they have a convention every year, and part of it is this writers competition. And so, I looked at it and I saw that it opened up in like January, which was like 3 months after we interviewed Boyd. And I was like, I got nothing to lose. Yeah. So I entered it, and there's there's like 3 different rounds. There's a whole bunch of judges. I actually became a judge this year, which is kind of cool. So get to see the inner workings of it. And and then as being on the inside, I was like, it's pat on my back, man. It was fucking impressive getting past all that.
Yeah, seriously. That's awesome. Well, it deserves it. It was such a fun read and so fast paced. I loved it. You did it. You did a great job with it. Grabs you right away. Excellent characters all the way through. I really did love it, and I know it's going to be on shelves in Barnes and Noble, on Amazon with a big publisher at some point. So yeah. No, it's awesome. But Clive Cussler, I think his. So Raise the Titanic, people think that they think it's his first book, but it's really his third. And I think that's the first time that seals are mentioned in fiction. I think.
Is it really?
I believe so.
Crazy.
Yeah.
He was like a sales guy. He didn't have any connection to the military, really. And for him to do all that stuff, it's fucking amazing.
Incredible. I got to meet him before he passed away.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. We went down to Barbara Peters from Poison Pen called me and said, hey, we're doing a book signing, and Clive will be there. His son Dirk will be there. And I went down and went to this, one of his car museums. So he was genius about how he did this. Genius. So the tax write-off stuff and what you mentioned earlier, I don't know how many connections there are to the IRS there, but when you buy something like that, I guess each book he bought, maybe one of these classic cars that he has in the back.
Yeah, you always see it on the back.
Exactly.
On the back,
yeah. And but he bought them, and then for the tax write-off, I guess, you put them in a museum and the public can come and see these cars. And one was in Colorado, one was in Arizona. So I went to the one in, you went to the Colorado one?
Yeah.
Is that where they did the convention or something?
Yeah. So that year, 2021, that's where they had it. And so we went to it and it fucking blew my mind.
Nice.
My
I think that's bigger.
With me.
Okay.
Dude, it's unreal the cars that he has. Like there's only like 12 in the world and he has 2 of them.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Multi-million-dollar vehicles, and anybody can go in there. But that was genius with the taxes and everything.
Oh
like,
yeah,
so smart.
Oh yeah, man. I'm thinking that through right now because there's some items starting to pile up outside from Toyota. So I'm looking at him as an example. But they're beautiful. So I went to the one in Arizona, and that one not as big as the one in Colorado. Beautiful though. Oh my gosh. And I got to get there early and hang out with him and Dirk, and we all had our Docks at Dive watches on. So we took a picture with took our pictures. I'm looking for one from the 60s though. I want to go back and get an original. Mine's from 2000, I think, or 2001 maybe, I think. But I want to go back and find one of the originals that he talks about.
That's a legit thing. They do that every year. The photo and showing the watches. Dirk will be there and whatnot.
Oh, do they at the convention?
Oh yeah. I'm like, dude, that's dedication.
Yeah.
Like, that's legit.
And it came in a cool thing. I think the one I got was it was before the movie came out in like 2005, Sahara. But I guess mine was 2001, I think. But it came in a cool commemorative Clive Cussler thing, and it was so I still have it. I was just looking at it the other day.
There was such an issue with Sahara, and I know you have the. You were an executive producer and you did some of the writing on the Terminal List. Mm-hmm. Clive had such an issue with the screenwriting for Sahara, and between him and the studio, he really didn't have any creative control over that, or they didn't allow him in there. Right. And he really didn't like the final product. He didn't like where it was going. He didn't like, even though the movie was entertaining if you remove it from the book and whatnot, but he had no creative control. And it's interesting to see how the industry has changed somewhat, where they allow like the writers, the creators of the story originally to come in and provide some insight and some input.
Yeah. I think the normal is to get rid of the author right away so that you're not on set just being a disruption, telling everyone how much they exactly. So I think they realized that very early on in Hollywood. So, but there are examples of mine with Terminal List being able to be a part of it from inception all the way through production, post-production, and all the rest of it. So that was really cool, and I feel extremely fortunate that they trusted me enough to bring me in and to make me a part of it. So that was.
Dude, as cool. A fan and as a reader and everything, like I want to see that stuff. The reason I like those stories is because of the book. And so if it's if it deviates too much on a different medium, I'll enjoy it. But at the same time, I'm like, why didn't they do this, or how come they changed that?
Yeah, so I try to be as forgiving as possible. I've always been fairly forgiving when I see something and just kind of gloss over it, especially if it's tactics or gun handling or something like that. I try to separate that, although it's very difficult sometimes. You're like, why wouldn't they just send that actor to like 3 days of training with someone that knows what they're doing, so he doesn't cover himself or his buddy, or he's not just being like, come on. So but I try to get past that and just enjoy it for what it is. So I'm not just hyperventilating on the couch. So I'm just relaxing and enjoying something.
I have to do that with Secret Service movies.
I bet. I do want to. I'm going to ask you about all of that stuff.
I'm sorry.
But it was interesting in the show in that I got to be involved. I learned so much, obviously. But the downside is that if it's awful, you can't say, hey, I had no creative control. Hollywood took it. They ruined it, So when they do take it away, from the author and they just, option it and then do whatever they want, then you'd be like, hey, it's awful. Then you have, hey, they screwed it up. But if you're involved, you have ownership. And there's no, you gotta be all there. You gotta,
Well, let's be fair though. The critics pretty much said it was shit.
They did. And I think they're doing more to help sales and views and clicks or whatever else than the good reviews. So I humbly thank them.
Who was it? P.T. Barnum said there's no such thing as bad publicity.
I believe so. Yeah. And the Daily Beast was especially mean-hearted, unkind, unnecessarily so, I think. But hey, that's how it goes.
But that disparity between the critics, I use my air quotations, critics and viewers is stunning.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want both. Like Top Gun Maverick, Gun Maverick, whatever it is, 98 on both. Like that's ideal. But if other than that, you would want, I think, the audience at 95, 98, critics wherever they are, rather than critics at 98 and then your audience at 12, 15. 20.
And then you're winning. You maybe win an award at a film festival that no one's ever going to watch.
Exactly.
Right? Like, who cares? You want eyeballs on. You want eyeballs.
Yeah, for this kind of a thing, for sure. I mean, this is commercial fiction, but same thing with Hollywood, as you know, in publishing, those names that we all know, like Stephen King, James Patterson, John Grisham. They're essentially paying for all the other books that don't make back their advances, that don't make a profit. So same thing, like the Avengers pays for everyone in Hollywood, essentially. So it's very rare that a show or a movie, breaks out. Exactly. So it's so all those shows that win at the Academy Awards, they're only there because the Avengers is paying for them to be there, essentially. That's the Marvel Universe.
A crazy thing. Yeah. The Marvel Universe is paying for everything. Although Terminalist and Gray Man and all the other things.
I mean, those are obviously, those two, but I'm talking about the ones that the critics love, that you're getting awards for and all that sort of a thing. Not all the time, but in a large number of cases, not that many people are seeing.
Bro, I can't tell you, they'll come out with like the best film of the year, and I'm just like, I've never seen that. Nor do I have a desire to ever see it.
Exactly. But similar in publishing, and I was fortunate that mine did fine right out of the gate, whatever. But I learned a little bit about the industry and how those big names that they've been around for 30 years, they're essentially paying for a lot of other authors, which is cool. It's cool to get your work out there and let you build up, and maybe it's 4 or 5, book number 6 that something hits or whatever. So that happens quite often as well. So it's really interesting industry.
I think the rule of thumb was, and it was Steve Berry who mentioned it. He was a very successful author in our genre. Mm-hmm. It takes about 5 or 6 books before you actually get a reader, on average, like a readership, a base of readers who will go out and religiously buy your books and then buy all your backlist and then promote you, word of mouth type of stuff. And that's where it usually begins. Yeah.
No, I heard that too. And Steve, what a great guy. He blurbed my first book right out of the gate. He's always at Thriller Fest. He has great advice for authors that are stepping into the industry. What a fantastic guy. Still at the top of his game. Just so kind. All those guys I found are like that. Lee Child, amazing. Same thing. He's at Thriller Fest. He doesn't have to go to BoucherCon at Thriller Fest. Like he's good, but he does.
He's so approachable too.
Yeah.
Such a soft-spoken, approachable individual who doesn't have to be, right?
No.
Doesn't have to do any of that stuff.
No.
And he reads, like, I thought I read a lot of books throughout the year, but he's like a machine. Yeah. And what he does, I love what he does, is he doesn't go after like the big names and then blurb. He finds like the new debut or someone with maybe 1 or 2 books out and then he dives into it and then he'll provide a blurb. Like you see his name on tons of books because he's just like, I love that energy you get from a new author, debut author.
That's awesome. Yeah, he blurbed my second book, so True Believer. He blurbed that one. But walking out of BoucherCon, I'm walking in, he's walking out. I see him, and he's dressed all in black, and of course with his jacket on and everything, and he pulling out a cigarette. And, just totally just normal. Great to talk to. So awesome. Get to thank him for the blurb and everything. But I've got to run into him at both Thriller Fest and BoucherCon. And I do tell people that are starting out, and I think you guys do too on Crew Reviews. And I think a lot of authors do, that they recommend people go to BoucherCon, go to Thriller Fest, do that agent speed dating, when you go and you sit down for like 2 minutes or something.
Yeah, right. And you just boom, boom, and you just get used to telling, pitching your elevator pitch, your story to the agents and whatnot.
I mean, what a great opportunity, especially when you like buy that, what was it, Book of Agents that comes out every year? I think that.
Bro, I have one from 20. It's so funny. I was talking to Brad Thor about the last time I bought one of those agent books was in 2000, maybe it was 2002.
Oh, wow.
And because now everything, you know, you can go like on QueryNet or Query.net, whatever. Like you can use the internet now. But that book was like the Bible if you wanted to break into writing. And I've always wanted to be a writer. And so, you know, I had all those editions. And the last one I bought, and it was funny because I was looking through it recently and I was talking to Brad Thor and I was like, dude, your name's not even in this. Like your agent, and he has a very, you know,
she
like
has agents. She has 2 clients.
Right. And so I'm like, your name's not there, dude. He goes, yeah, well, I hadn't made it yet. I'm like,
they have the names in there is the names of authors that they represent.
So the names of the authors of and I was like, wow, I'm like, you're like her one of, if not the biggest, right? In the genre. And like, it's so funny. It's so early in your career that you were still a blip on the radar. And now look at where you're at within the industry.
That is interesting. But someone who gets that book or finds it online, it's like, oh, I need an agent. I heard I need an agent. I mean, it's daunting. I mean, that thing, if you have the actual book, it looks like an SAT study guide. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I bought one and I never opened it. But I still have it. I only know that because I found it the other day and I couldn't even remember that I bought it, but I must have gotten it like as I was, you know, starting right down the road and I didn't know anything. Yeah. But I never cracked it. But I saw it there, but I can only imagine how daunting it would be to like, okay, I guess I'm going to write this query letter and then I'm going to go and do I start alphabetical? Do I go to the back and start going forward? How do I target? And there are ways you can be smart about it, like go to the back of books in your genre, look at the acknowledgments. Yeah, look at the acknowledgments, go through there, see who people are thanking. You know, that's how I found my stuff. That's what I did. But I think that's a good way to go, and then go into that book and find those agents that are being thanked in these different novels that you think might be interested in what you have there. Yep. You know, so you can be smart about it, but rather than just starting totally blank at the beginning, like a phone book, you know.
Dude, oh my God, you know, you waste a ton of time. I did it several years ago. I was in Barnes and Noble, and I was, you know, like the new releases, and I'm going through the back, and I remember one of the workers just walking to like, what do you? Because I like had my notebook out and I like pen and paper, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, just writing down some stuff. They're like, you got to buy the book. I'm like, yeah, I will. I'm like, just writing down agent stuff.
No, it's a good way to go about doing it. I think.
That's how I got my agent.
Okay, nice. That's how you did it. You targeted.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I actually, it was Barack Obama's agent.
Really?
And then, so she, when I submitted Drone Kings, my manuscript to her, she read it. She was like, I loved it. But you know, I'm obviously not Barack Obama or that caliber. And like, you know, who are you? So here, I'm going to give you to one of my junior associates, and got it. He's going to handle you and whatnot. So I was like, whatever, got in the door.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. But I think also going to Thrillerfest, going to BoucherCon. I don't know if BoucherCon has the speed dating thing, but Thrillerfest does. And they have Craft Fest, and they have that whole week of workshops and things like that. But that speed dating thing, I mean, it worked for Simon Gervais. That's how he found his agent. There's a couple people I think that have done that. And you sit down.
Don Bentley, I think.
Is that right? I forgot.
I think he may have gotten. I don't know if Barbara Poel was doing it at the time, but maybe they were introduced there.
Okay, got it.
Because not only do you have the speed dating, like where does a lot of the interactions happen?
At the bar.
At the bar, of course, right? And so you have, which is amazing, is you have the agents, you have the publicists, you have the publishers, you have the editors, you have the authors, and everybody who's anybody is at the bar drinking, smoozing it up, and that's how you just.
It's cool. Yeah, it's awesome. I love going to both of those. I couldn't make Thrillerfest this year, but I'll be there next year. Couldn't make BoucherCon. I'm on lockdown, finishing this book. I'm locked in my room until I finish my homework, type of a thing. I canceled my entire fall. I had a crazy hunt planned for Alaska, and I just canceled it on Monday. It's like a 3-year wait list type thing. And but I was like, oh man,
those deadlines, huh? Those deadlines.
Yeah, they do. And I didn't, I had nothing to gauge how much time it would take for promotion of the show and how much I'd be involved and all that stuff. So I really, it's my first time down that path, so I had no idea. But it was a lot. So, which is awesome. but it necessitated me canceling my fall, and I'll be writing right through it. Rented a cabin down the road to write in. So
are you still doing that? Are you doing the sequestering yourself so there's no? Yeah,
I have to.
Smart.
I have to. I mean, even we moved and we're more remote and all that stuff, but the place we bought has needs a little work, so there are people coming and going, dog barking. It's just
you're gonna get anything done.
So I'm gonna go lock down there here shortly. And then go kind of a couple weeks at a time.
Where were you going to hit in Alaska? Because you had been there just not too long ago, I think, right?
Yeah, it was their last fall as well. So I went up in the Wrangell Mountains last year, which was beautiful. Flew in, got on horses, took the horses in, made a camp, and went out from there. So that was crazy. Had a very successful trip. And then, but a couple of years ago when I was doing the research for Savage Sun, and that's why I went to Kamchatka, Russia to do that. Did a hunt there so I could really,
some cool stories there, bro.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah. One of them is right behind me. If you don't know, you can see that. But so that was a crazy one in Russia, but I got so much from that I could then weave into, and the book was pretty much done at the time. But I came back and then wove all the things that I learned into the story from being on the ground. But I didn't know, I was trying to get there. I couldn't quite figure out how I was going to do it. And I kind of overbooked 2019 big time. So I already had something that had been on the books for I think 3 years, and so I got right back from that trip, and a week later I was in Alaska with Glacier Guides doing another hunt up there, and that's what this one was going back with them.
Cool.
Yeah, but then I had to cancel. I feel horrible, but somebody else will get a great deal.
Jack Carr, Jack Carr, you're living the life that all of us want to do. I know you're busy, but at the same time you're very calculated. You're very focused. But if anybody were to look at, and Sean and Mike, my co-hosts on the crew reviews, we talk about this often. Anybody would look at your social media, and I hate social media because it's necessary. You have become a pro at it. Like, you've attacked it. You wrote down a mission plan and you attacked it, and you have set the bar for everyone else to try to reach. And dude, it's difficult to get to that level, but the fact that you're like here and there, and the way you makes it appear, and actually, it's the internet, it's social media. So what, appearances aren't everything, but it appears like, dude, you are on the go 24/7. And with a family, with young kids, with writing. I'm like, dude, this fucking guy's like Superman. This is crazy.
Well, I'm exhausted. I don't sleep, don't eat right, no exercise. Yeah, like those three things fell off. And that's what I'm trying to put back on the schedule this year, is getting some sleep, starting to eat right again, getting some exercise, that sort of thing. So that's part of my, it's going to be chaos till the end of the year, but I think moving into, I put some things in place, some different processes to make things more effective and efficient. And I'll refine those over the next few months so that when I hit 2023, now I have really more of a support, rather than me running around like a crazy person all the time doing everything. I have like a support network set up. So feeling. But what people don't see on social media is like this morning. So I try to get our little guy out of bed. Like, dude, we got to get to school. Come on, buddy. Let's do this. Let's get up. And then you're like late, and I'm looking at the watch, and then I'm driving down, and I stop. I'm oh, look, we got two moose right over there, buddy. And he's like, Dad, you're gonna make us late. I'm like, I'm gonna make us late. Come on. I was just trying to get you out of bed for 15 minutes, like and then racing back here, and then try to do a little quick little edit upstairs on like a podcast that drops today, and then running in here last second, like, hey, reading your book, which was awesome though, because I just turn off everything and just did that. So that I love doing that. So that's an added benefit of doing the podcast as well. And then a lot of the things also, you have some great quotes in there, by the way. I compliment you on a couple of quotes that I had not read before, Civil War era type quotes.
That's my thing.
I know. Oh, I wanted to ask you about that. I'm definitely, it's in my notes here. But I was like, oh, really cool. I haven't seen these before. Cause some of the quotes out there you see, quite a bit, but I hadn't seen these before, and maybe want to do a little more research. But podcast wise is a ton of work, as you know, from doing the crew reviews, because you have to read these books as well, come up with your questions. Like it's not, it's a lot of work. And it's commitment as well. And then you owe it to the guest to read their book and come up with questions and all that stuff. So it's a thing. But in being forced to read some of these books, like this week, every single person coming on had a book. And I was like, okay, I need to like 2 a week, like has to be the max of authors coming on.
That's too much.
It's too much. It's too much. And thus far, I've read everyone's book who has come on. But unless they have like 30 and I'm just found them, then I'm reading the one, the one that we're going to talk about. But but the added benefit is, like, the other day I had someone on and he had a book that talks about a very close nuclear exchange from 1983. And that wasn't really publicized until 1999, when a former Soviet official wrote his memoirs, and they found out how close we got back then. And so, but I was like, okay, so that stuff will probably end up, a sentence from there or something inspired from reading that book will probably end up in the novel that I'm working on right now. And it wouldn't, had I not been forced to read the book, because even though I wanted to, it probably would have gone to the side and I would have focused on writing mine. But being forced to do that, and that happened last year as well, reading the Afghanistan papers, reading Peter Bergen's book on Bin Laden, like that stuff. Like, even if it's just a hint or a sentence or something, like something will come out of there and spark a little creativity that then works its way into the storyline, no matter how subtle.
Bro. Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. My computer's littered. You can't see it because it's just the camera facing this way, with Post-its of, and I say to a lot of people, like, when I'm reading books, I find passages or sentences and I'm just like, dude, this is really good, and it just hits me a certain way. Yeah. So I write it down and I dwell on it, and I incorporate the idea of it, not the words, but I incorporate the idea of it into, like, whatever I'm working on, like a short story or manuscript. But yet there are so many. I commend you for you having 2 authors or every week,
5 this week.
4. Dude, that's crazy. Yeah. Because I know I have to read a shit ton of work, because I wouldn't want to have a guest on, and I wouldn't want to be a guest on a show where the person's asking me these generic questions. Because what happens is a lot, and I'm looking to see if I have any here, is you'll get a book. If you're like a book reviewer, right? You'll get a book, and within that book, they'll send you something like this.
Yep.
Right. Exactly. And in this, there'll be about the author, they'll a blurb about the book, and there's like, here's some suggested questions you want to ask. If you're a book reviewer, or if you're doing interviews of authors, you never ask those fucking questions.
Yeah. Ever. They know right away.
It's stupid. First of all, you're half-assing it, right? And first of all, I know Jack Carr doesn't half-ass anything, and I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want someone interviewing me half-assing it. And so you have to take the time to read the book. And I would never have someone on my show who hadn't read their book, and then ask very insightful questions that you think that other people may not be asking. And of course, you got to ask the question that a lot of people would ask, because it's books and there's similar themes and whatnot. But you also want to get into the nitty gritty, maybe a little bit, and some specific stuff.
Especially on a podcast. Like, if it's AM radio and these guys are doing, they have 3 hours in the morning and they got to fill it, and they have, each one of those hours maybe has an author in it. I can see them, and and that's, for me, I'm like, that's fine. You would, whatever. You have
hear my
5 to 10 to 15 minutes maybe in there if you get a commercial. So those ones, I think it's more set up for those rather than like a podcast, deep conversation type of a thing. But I think I don't know if I'll be able to always read everyone's book. I'm always going to make the attempt, and I have thus far. But eventually something will happen and I won't be able to, and they'll be scheduled, and I'll be like, I can't reschedule this person. Like, it's Lee Child, or it's someone that I really want to talk to, and I'll be like, okay, well, I've read enough of his stuff. That's a bad example. Yeah, exactly. That's a bad example. But someone else who, like, I haven't for some reason read or whatever, but I really want to talk to, and I might be like, hey, I have not read this book. I am so excited to read it. And then we talk about their career and other stuff in there that maybe wouldn't be on those questions either. But I think I'm gonna have to be honest about it instead of trying to, you can't fake it. You'll know.
You can tell when someone, because I've seen other author interviews, and I love the long, as opposed to the radio stuff where you get your 5 minutes, your 10 minutes, and you hear those, and those are usually canned responses, because I know from like you guys and from like you and Mark Rainey, and Josh Hood, guys who are doing the interviews, it's the same 5 questions, and so they just repeat the answer over and over and over again. You're like exhausted at the end of the day. But I love the long form, because you can ask those questions and then have a conversation about it, and then go in a direction that maybe that 5 minute blurb on the radio just would never get to.
Yeah, but you have to do it all. Yeah, you have to do it all because those AM radio, local markets, important. I think even if it has 50 listeners, like if a podcast has 2 listeners, like that's important because it's not just those 2 listeners. It's you making the effort to go on that podcast, them appreciating it, and then telling their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister, their coworker that, hey, this guy came on my podcast. It was awesome. We had such a good time. You got to check out this book. Maybe one of those 5 people does it. And then they tell somebody. And then so now that 2 people has become 5, has become 10, has become 20. So I think it's important to do all that stuff. If you just do something big, you get a spike, boom, and then you're back. You got to continuously do all those things that help you engage with that readership and build it. You know what I mean? Who's doggy in the background?
Give me 2 seconds.
Who's the dog? What dog do you have? That dog doesn't sound that fierce for a Secret Service agent.
It's my border collie, and there's someone at the front door. So we're gonna have to edit this one.
Take your pistola. Be careful.
Yeah, I know. No shit.
All right. So, everything all right? I didn't hear any gunshots.
No gunshots. No one. These are my cleaners. I can't kill my cleaners. God, no.
No.
But I rescheduled them. They were supposed to come at 2:00, and of course,
that's how it goes. That happens all the time. That happens all the time around here. Things like that.
But my dog is my house. It's set back. It's not in a development, but there's like developments around. So, but I'm set back. I have some privacy, but my dog, like anything that anywhere remotely close. She's a border collie. She's fucking genius. So she's my first. I have cameras, but then also she hits it before the cameras even see anything.
Nice.
And so then I know. There's something there.
Oh yeah, no, I like it. Yeah, we're doing the similar things. I don't want to talk about it too much because then people can figure out how to get around things.
Yeah, bro. That's what
all those, the different layers of security.
Bro, you have your concentric circles.
You got to do it. You know all about that stuff. Like before I ask you about Secret Service stuff, though, the short story "Actual Stop," which I have not read, I didn't know about it till right now. I don't know how I didn't know about it, but you've never mentioned it to me before. What is Actual Stop?
So it's a short story of actually a minor character within Drone Kings.
Which one?
And it's a minor character named Tommy who he's very short amount of time
takes over the detail, right?
Right, he's on the detail, but I wanted to go back a little bit to show a little bit of his training.
Cool.
An actual stop within the Secret Service, and I don't know if the Navy was doing this when we were running scenario based like attacks and whatnot, and we would run them all the time. You'd have instructors looking over you and around you, and then if something happened or it's designed to put stress on the agents, but if something was unsafe or dangerous, because it's a training scenario, anybody could yell "actual stop."
Okay, and so it's not part of the scenario like stop, and people are like, wait, what?
Not part of the, yeah, right.
Is this stop or stop or no?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
Next thing you're protectee's dead. You're like, you failed. Like,
exactly.
No.
I thought that person yelled stop, but no, that's part of the thing.
Yeah. And so the Secret Service hires actors. Right. In these scenarios. And so you'll have crowds of people, you'll have a president. These are all actors that the Secret Service hires to make it, real, right?
Yeah.
Like a real world scenario. And sometimes the people in there will be like, will yell stop to see the reaction, because how you train is how you'll perform, when you're actually doing the job. And so it's actual stop is what anybody can yell.
Yeah.
The instructors will yell. And I thought that would be an interesting thing to show a training scenario and how it looks real. And from the reader standpoint, you think it's real until you get to the very end.
No, you ruined it. Come on. You can't we got to edit it now. We got to edit this out. Oh, man, that's awesome.
Someone's reading it.
No, that's really cool. So it was in Mystery Weekly magazine, but you never mentioned this to me. You got to tell me this stuff.
Yeah.
Man. I'm gonna read it for sure because I know that character obviously now from reading the book and liked the book so much. I'm gonna definitely check that out. But what is the path into Secret Service? Like, what is that like? Like, when did you decide you wanted to do it? What was your path in? Because a lot of people want to know that stuff. They're like, hey, I'm in high school, I'm in college, I'm taking criminal justice, or I'm thinking about going to be a justice studies major or something like that. What are things I can do? Law enforcement, federal law enforcement, Secret Service. How do you do that? Okay, again, the website. What do I need? Okay, like what was your path?
My path was, to get into like any federal law enforcement job, you need a 4-year degree. So I ended up going to State University in New Jersey, Rutgers University, getting a degree in they called it administration and justice, but it's really criminal justice. And then I ended up knowing someone within the state attorney general's office in New Jersey. And I was given, did an internship, ended up getting a position there, hired as a state investigator.
So right out of college.
Right out of college, dude. They took a chance on me, and I was hired like low guy in the totem pole.
Wow.
But
are most people coming from local law enforcement, that sort of a thing?
Yeah, so they have backgrounds, and I was like the youngest guy, but like 10 years, and so I was kind of like, oh, I got to prove myself here, and I busted my ass, worked long hours, put together some really good cases, some really influential cases, and I ended up working. So this is 2001, 2000.
Okay.
Before 9/11, I ended up working with a Secret Service agent out of the Newark, New Jersey field office, who has since become a good friend of mine. And we were working a fraud investigation that was tied to like an auto theft ring in New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey came to New Jersey like the auto at the time. I don't know if they are still, but they were the auto theft capital of the world.
I was just going to say that I bet you were busy.
Yeah, very busy, because they would take those cars, they would steal them, and then they would put them on shipping containers and send them to Africa. And it was such a big business. So anyway,
No kidding. What are they targeting? What kind of cars were they targeting back then?
So at that time, 2000, 99, 2000, 2001, it was Toyota Camrys, Honda Civics, and Nissan Altimas, because they were easy to jump, easy to get to. And yeah, the statistics were just stupid. Like if you drove one of those cars, it was getting stolen, especially if you were in those surrounding metro areas. Oh yeah.
That's so wild.
You could take any of those cars. You could take a screwdriver, and you wouldn't even have to jam it in that far, and you could turn the ignition on, and that's what a lot of guys were doing. And then driving to the port, putting it on a shipping container, and then goodbye.
Jeez, and that's, I mean, how much do they turn them over? Like, how do they turn that a profit? It seems like
they were making money. Yeah. It was organized. It was organized crime.
Yeah,
there was a ton of money to be made there.
What kind of organized crimes doing that?
So you're talking so the street level gangs doing the
tactical level,
stealing doing the stealing of the vehicles, and then you're talking your Russian, a lot of Russian mafia.
Okay.
Some of the old school mob Italian stuff, but a lot of the Russian. That's and
I guess.
Yeah, a lot of the Chinese or Korean.
Really?
I was in the New Jersey, New York metro, Connecticut metro area, and so you have large groups of Koreans, Chinese, Russians, Italians, and there's a lot of organized crime element in that. Man. So anyway, so I was working one of these cases with a Secret Service agent, and this was in the beginning of 2001, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you? We're doing a really big push for the Secret Service right now. There's a mass hiring. Why don't you apply for it?" And I had always wanted to get into federal law enforcement, probably the FBI. At that time, I was like, "Yeah, I want to be an FBI agent."
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, Secret Service, that'd be a cool idea. I actually never really thought I'd be Secret Service like level, because it's like the pinnacle, and I say that with no bias. So I was like, all right. So I looked up, I got the application. In those days, you actually had to type out the application. There's no online stuff. So I'm on a typewriter typing the shit out slowly like this. All right. And I'd made friends with through my contact in New Jersey through the New York office, New York City field office, and they said I had a greater chance of getting hired through the New York City field office because they had a greater pool of applicants, and they would draw more people from that pool. Whereas if I were to apply through Trenton, New Jersey, or Newark, New Jersey, smaller pool, and they're only pulling one or two, you would have less of an opportunity.
Interesting.
Because you're Navy SEAL, the requirements to becoming a Navy SEAL, although a lot more difficult, I would think, physically and mentally, to becoming a Secret Service agent. There's 10% of the guys would make it through buds at some point 20, or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the Secret Service, like you would get 5,000 applicants, and they would maybe pull 3. So anyway, so I applied to the New York City field office, and then 9/11 happened, and my application, because it's hard copies then, nothing was digitized at that time. My application actually got destroyed when Tower 7 came down. Tower 7 was where the Secret Service headquarters was. Whoa. And so everything was just put on hold, completely put on hold. Couple months after that, they're like, "Hey, my buddy reached out. He goes, "You need to reapply. We are at this point.
Yeah. Now
we're
we
at
need
war.
people. Yeah.
And we need people, and we need everybody.
Wow.
You know, everyone's hiring. You know, and the Secret Service went at that point from the Treasury Department to Homeland, this new agency, this big behemoth, the Department of Homeland Security. And so, like, we are hiring a ton of people. You have a greater chance now at any point in time to getting hired. Not that you didn't before, but you just have a greater chance. So I reapplied, and it took 18 months from when I reapplied to when I actually got a letter of conditional employment.
Okay. Man.
But and then you know, but the Secret Service is cool as opposed to the FBI, which is not cool in the media right now.
I saw a couple headlines
the Secret Service, the Secret Service pulls from a huge pool of applicants, where the FBI was really pulling from like a very specific pool. Because I remember I went through the academy with a good friend of mine now, and he was like a marketing executive in New York City. He had no law enforcement experience whatsoever. Now I went through, and there were a lot of guys who were former cops, SWAT team, military. But then we had a couple teachers. We had a couple what
you guys did in Secret Service.
Yeah, in the Secret Service. So they pull those types of people because they want. So the job of the Secret Service is different, really, than a lot of the other federal law enforcement agencies, because they want people who think, this is kind of cliche, but outside of the box. They don't want the same point of view. Yeah. Because when it comes to doing executive protection and setting up your security plan, you want people thinking differently, right? And so how do you do that? You make sure you're pulling people from different areas and different life experiences, and then you bring that all together, as opposed to just having the same type of person who kind of looks like me, same background as me, law enforcement, and then just putting it all together, because then you'll end up just getting the same security plan over and over and over again.
Interesting. No, I like that. So during those 18 months, you're still working in New Jersey, still doing cases. And are you also, like, how does that work when you're doing that sort of a thing? Are you putting together a case, and then let's say you have do you put together like a targeting package or something like that? Like, hey, this person who runs this ring is going to be at this building at this time. All right, let's bring in SWAT, and then you go along with them, or you bring in marshals if they have a warrant on them already or something like that. And then you're kind of there with them when you make entry and go and grab this person, and then you take custody. Like, is that how it works, or how's that go down?
Not so much with the Attorney General's office. If we had something that was high threat like that, we would call on the state police. State police would have a SWAT team. The AG's office didn't have a SWAT team. It was more pencil pushing type of investigators. But they're still armed and whatnot and able to arrest. But so they would bring in state police. But with the Secret Service, if it was high enough, the Secret Service, we would put together search warrant plan. We'd bring everybody together. You do your briefing. You have your rally points and whatnot, and then we would go and execute our search warrant or arrest warrant. But if we knew that the individual was armed or had priors, because we're doing a complete workup on the individuals that we're looking at, or anybody that they're associated with that area in particular, we would actually bring in our TOS team or our special weapons type team.
What does TOS stand for?
Technical operations, and security. I think it was tough. That might have been. I wasn't on it. So those guys would actually. They would do the entry. Oh, wow. And then the case agents or lead agent who was running that investigation would be at the end of the stack. Those guys would do everything, go in, and you're like, all right, that's my guy. That's
exactly.
My guy. Yeah. Get everybody.
That's kind of like TV. They kind of get that right most of the time.
Yeah, they do.
Nowadays,
they do.
Not all the time. I remember back in the 90s, they'd have like the guy with the pistol making lead entry who was like an investigator and SWAT team behind him. And you're always like, that's probably not how it's going down.
God, no. I'd be the guy with like the you have your little your vest on, your raid jacket on, and then the guys in front of you got the tactical gear on, the helmets and whatnot. They got the long guns, and they're going in there and they're putting people face down on the ground. And I'm just going in there and be like, all right, make sure he gets in the car. Talk to him,
but much more civilized. I like it. So you do that 18 months, you're doing this, and then you get your, at what point during that time frame do you find out that you're eventually going to have a class update, or you've been accepted into training for Secret Service?
So there's a whole bunch of different steps. So first of all, the Secret Service wants to know your complete background, like everything.
I would think
going going back to like when you were a kid, and
probably your family's background, I would think.
Your family's background, your friends, and what they do. And I actually did this at one point for the Secret Service. Is they go and then interview everybody.
Yeah,
like plus one or two.
Mm-hmm.
So like you interview someone and then
to
you
get
like,
somebody else, because obviously you're not going to write down the name of someone who's going to say that guy's a friggin' crazy person.
Yeah, like what about ex-girlfriends or ex-boyfriends? If it's a female, you got any names? Like, you talk to this person, okay, and then you go talk to that person. You're like, all right, tell me the nitty gritty, tell me all the good things and the bad things, because I want to know all those bad things, because you want to know if the applicant has provided and been truthful and honest in their application process.
Right.
So you have to like lay bare everything.
Yeah. So they're doing that for you. They're doing that for you during that time frame.
Right. And then you go in. You have a panel interview where they ask, you get the boss of the office and 2 other senior agents, and they pepper you for like, I don't know, a couple hours with questions, and you have to be able to, adapt and answer the questions truthfully and honestly, and be well prepared in your answers. But you don't know like what they're going to ask at that point.
Yeah.
Once you get, and then all this is scored against other people. So you not only do you have to do well, you have to do better than the other guy or the other gal. And so you get moved on to the next part, right? And so they're like, all right, they get this initial pool of applicants, and they go, okay, these are all a bunch of shitbirds, and these guys are okay, but these are the guys and women, these are the ones we want. Let's move them to the next. Then they do the panel interview, and they go, all right, well, this one was okay, but out. Better qualified applicant. You get that letter. It's called a BQA. You get a letter. It's called better qualified applicant. Like, we thank you for applying, but we found better qualified applicants.
Oh, that's brutal.
Next year. Yeah, it's tough. It's a form letter.
Yeah.
So once you get past that, they go, okay, you're good enough. The boss of the Secret Service field office who has interviewed you has signed off and said you are qualified, but now you have to do your polygraph. Mm-hmm. Now you come into the polygraph, and at that point, my polygraph, I think, was like 8 hours long.
Is this lifestyle poly?
What's that?
Lifestyle poly? So the long one?
Everything, dude.
The long one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I lost about 5 pounds of water weight on that one. They asked some fucking crazy questions.
It's uncomfortable.
They put you through they put you through the ringer. They ask some crazy off the wall stuff. You just have to be truthful and honest. Some guys actually get called back, like, you were iffy on this. We're going to call you back and re-interview you in a polygraph. And the one thing I discovered is polygraphers are some of the best interrogators and some of the best interviewers you will ever find anywhere. Yeah. Because they don't need the machine to determine whether you're lying or not. They just have an amazing ability.
I talk about it at the beginning of 4th novel, Devil's Hand. Yeah. But decided to do that the lifestyle poly. And sit in that chair, so I get to relive that very uncomfortable room to be in. So I put that in the 4th novel. So you do that and you pass.
You pass, and then they go, we have a class for you. And you're going to go down to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, which is in Glencoe, Georgia. Yeah. And you're going to do criminal investigator. First, you go to Secret Service, and they make you do like a 2-week introductory course where it's shooting and running, and you get
is that down there too, or is that somewhere?
No, that's in Beltsville, Maryland, where the Secret Service has their actually academy.
Okay.
And then you do like 2 weeks of there, and then they send you down to Glencoe, Georgia with 24 other agents, Secret Service agents, and then you get into what's called a criminal investigator training program class. And you spend, I think it's 5 months, 6 months. I'm not sure. I don't remember what it is. It might be 5 months, where you and all the other what are called 1811s. So the federal government designates criminal investigators across the board as 1811s. So you'll be there. Like my class was married up with diplomatic security, State Department, basically equivalent Secret Service agents. Okay. So we were married up with them, and you go through that training. You have to pass all that stuff. You do the legal stuff, you do the tactics stuff, you do the shooting stuff.
You drive, and they have that driving course down there, right?
The driving course is pretty cool, but the really cool driving course is in Secret Service in Beltsville,
nice.
Maryland. So once you graduate from that, then you come back.
Are you living? Are you in barracks there at the time? You're like up at 5 in the morning, and like,
dude, it's
If you're
I
married, do
wasn't
you
in
live
the military.
If you're married, do you live off? Can you live off post, or is everybody's in barracks? Everybody's at Federal Law Enforcement Training Center there, and you're getting up every morning doing your PT and then going up to your classes and doing your driving or your shooting or your testing or whatever it might be.
Yeah, full day. When I got down there, they had built what we called the Hilton at one point. I didn't get to go into it, but it was like a regular hotel style building. Nice. I was in the crappy barracks one.
Yeah.
My wife, who's a Secret Service agent, we were in the class together. She ended up being in the Hilton, and I was, I was like, wow, you're in a fucking hotel room? I'm like, what is this shit? I'm like, this is crazy. But anyway, so you graduate from that. They send you back to your field office for a little bit to do some paperwork. And then they send you.
So you already have a field office you're going to be assigned to already?
You already know, in the Secret Service at least, you already know which field office you're going to. And I was going to the Newark, New Jersey field office. Oh, okay. So they kept me local. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of cool. And so I ended up going to Beltsville, Maryland, where they put you through Secret Service training, very specific. Okay. They build upon some of the stuff you learned down in FLETC, but then they teach you
like graduate school.
You're going to need to do. Yeah. Yeah. Graduate school. Yeah. With some doctorate stuff in there.
All right. I like it. How long is that?
And I think it's another 5 months.
Dang.
Yeah. It's pretty long.
That's awesome. But are you doing case studies also? Or are they bringing in people like other, obviously, Secret Service agents who have been in there for 20, 30 years, bringing like guest speakers in to talk about different incidents and run you through things and that sort of a deal? That's awesome.
So you do get a little bit, and it may have changed, but you do get a little bit of death by PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But then then you start strapping on stuff, your weapons and whatnot, and you start doing a lot of scenario based, real world type stuff. Like shit's blowing up, you're getting shot. Like they do some really cool training. And then once you get past that, you end up going to your field office, and you start what's called phase one. Phase one of a Secret Service career is you're doing your criminal investigations. You're anything to do with money. So the Secret Service.
So it still took the Treasury stuff, even though you're not now under the Treasury. Yep. You're still doing that mission.
Still providing protection, by the way, to the Secretary of the Treasury.
Okay.
Anyway, so you do all your your counterfeit money, your credit card fraud, anything to do with money.
Wow.
The Secret Service is investigating that, but at the same time, because it's a dual mission agency, you're doing your criminal investigations, but you're also doing your executive protection stuff
at the same time,
vice president, the exact same time.
So you're in a field office, let's say, and are like co-located near FBI field offices? Or they're kind of like that sort of a thing? Like all the cities that would have an FBI field office also have you guys to kind of work together on things maybe now and again. And then if the president's coming through, then you augment from that field office. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So they'll have each field office you generally, depend on the size, will have a protection squad. And those are the individuals who don't do any of the criminal investigations. They're strictly there to help with lead advances or site advances for protectees who are coming into district.
Got it.
President, vice president, or a head of state. Foreign head of state comes into the country. Secret Service's lead point on providing protection to those.
Does Diplomatic Security Service still do that?
So diplomatic security, we would work a lot with. And when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, we worked a ton with her because she still wanted Secret Service protection when she came back into the United States.
Yeah.
But when she was overseas, she wanted DSS. So DSS agents would be like the foreign minister as opposed to the actual head of state. Okay. So we would, sometimes they would travel together and we would have dual motorcades and whatnot. A lot of my friends were DSS agents.
Okay.
So you're doing that. In fact, sometimes it gets the bread and butter and the priority is always the executive protection when you're a Secret Service agent. And sometimes that gets in the way of your criminal investigations. And I had an instance where I was working a criminal investigation. It started off as check fraud and postage fraud, go figure, and turned into possession of child pornography and distribution of child pornography. It's a crazy case. And I was working with locals on that. So like the sheriff's department, and we were getting search warrants. But I got pulled for President Bush protective detail at the time, and I was traveling, and then the United Nations General Assembly was going on, which is something that happens every September.
So it backs up your other investigations. Now you have somebody out there.
Completely backs it up, right? Man. And so it took 3 months for me at one point to get back to it. I had actually gotten evidence, and it took 3 months from the time that I secured the evidence through consent an individual to actually get a search warrant. And then that came up in court. This case ended up going to a trial.
Oh, geez.
That came up in court where the judge was like, any other circumstance, we would throw this the fuck out.
Because it's too long.
Because it's too long, right? But they're like, but because of the necessity and, what Agent Albanese is doing for executive protection for the president, it's a mitigating circumstance. And so we'll let it go. But bar that, there was, this case is done and over with.
Wow.
So it got in the way. And in a way, it's frustrating, but at the same time, it's refreshing because you could burn out doing one or the other. If you're just doing straight investigations, you do that for 20 years, that'll burn you out.
Okay, so you can kind of move around a little.
Yeah, but if you mix in some of that executive protection, that high profile stuff,
right,
kind of helps out.
Man, that is wild. And some of those the currency stuff or whatever, what stands out to you as far as doing that kind of work? Is it like, are people actually printing on a printer, or are China or other foreign governments kind of flooding our markets with fake stuff that looks really real? Is it coming through Mexico? Is it coming through cargo containers? Like, what is that? Or the credit card stuff? Is it like just, I mean, gosh, it sounds like there's so many better ways to, make a dollar than like scamming.
Well,
stuff.
I will tell you that there's a foreign country that was producing super notes.
What's a super note?
Like, a super note is even a trained eye would be able to determine that it was counterfeit. Like, it did so good.
Yeah.
And we have foreign adversaries who would create our own.
It seems
money.
like a normal thing to do. Like,
create our own money, and then so not only do you have that, like, you have a large pool of counterfeit money that looks
not bad,
99.99999%. As good as ours.
Yeah.
And then you have like gangs
trying to make it like monopoly money.
No, well, you get some of that, but like offset printing, like in Colombia, like the Colombian notes, like, and they're good and they'll pass shopkeepers and whatnot. But if you give me a loop and look at it, no, real American. So they're printing the stuff. They're printing in Colombia and putting on shipping containers.
Okay.
And send it up here to the United States. There are. And then there was a whole bunch at one point where the Secret Service was getting crushed.
And that's to use. That's to use, not to devalue the dollar.
No, that's just to use.
Yeah.
They're just buying shit with it.
Yeah.
But at some point with the laser printers and just regular printing, and people are scanning money and they're just printing it off. And we were getting crushed in the early 2000s.
Just so many people trying it.
Yeah, just everyone just taking a printer and just printing off sheets of money. And you have some stupid kid at Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's going, here's $5. And they would take it, and then they'd be like, no, this is counterfeit, you dumbass.
Yeah,
we were getting crushed with that.
Oh, that's so brutal. God.
So the Secret Service with some help at, try to find some way to mitigate that and prevent that from happening. And I think they've done a pretty good job at doing that. But at the same time, you still have foreign actors who print our money.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
If I was an adversary, that's one of the things that I would be doing to destabilize. And
definitely.
Yeah. Crazy. So how long do you do that? Do you move field offices? Do you stay New Jersey, or how does it, what goes on the rest of your time in the Secret Service? Actually, before I get to that, when you're in Maryland and you're doing the death by PowerPoint, do they bring in was it Clint Hill? Does he come in and talk to you guys? Or
I would love to have Clint Hill come in, but no, we did not get to talk to him. They would bring in people who had done some really cool stuff, though. They still will do the PowerPoint.
Do they talk about JFK assassination? Do they talk about that? Is that a case study?
Yeah, we would do case studies and how and what the Secret Service did to then improve upon.
Yeah,
it's always improving, because the only time the Secret Service is ever in the news is when bad shit happens.
Right.
And so we never want bad shit to happen, and so they're always building upon and making things more redundant and building out and pushing out, and making sure that people can't get close. You learn from JFK, you learn from Reagan. Right. We learn from foreign countries, attacks that happen on principles as well. So it's always the learning process. But they would bring in people from the Secret Service has specialized units. They would bring those folks in as well, to then give agents a glimpse into what like the bigger picture, because you really don't know about this stuff until you actually get in. Like I like saying the secret, there are secrets with the Secret Service, but if you're in the Secret Service, there are no secrets. Like everybody needs to know what everybody else is doing in order for the security plan that they've put together for it to work properly.
What do they say? What did they say about JFK assassination? And have you gone there and have you walked it?
No, I haven't done that. That actually would be pretty interesting to do.
It is. I did it at VoucherCon. VoucherCon was there, and so I went there with a bunch of other authors. We walked through it and did the whole thing. It was really interesting.
Really?
Yeah,
that's really pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that the president will never ever drive in an open vehicle again, and that was one of the lessons that they learned.
Right.
Is that we can't have, his hair blowing through the wind. Like that's just not going to happen anymore. And so we're going to enclose him. And now you get what the media likes to call the beast, right? The presidential limo that's driving around town. And good luck trying to get a shot through that thing.
Oh man. And did Robert Kennedy have Secret Service protection?
He did not, because so we learned from that as well. It was one of the interesting things because he was a candidate at the time, right? At that point, the only people who were getting protection were the president, the vice president. That changed because of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so now it's candidates at a certain point. Well, the Secret Service, along with other people, will come together and make a determination that individual should get protection. If you go back to 2008, Barack Obama, he announced his candidacy like 2 years before the election. It was something crazy.
Oh, wow.
And he immediately got a ton of threats. Immediately. And the Secret Service made a determination, along with the president of the United States, that he should get protection. And so what happens is the Secret Service starts winding up its candidate operations section, CNOS, and they start pulling agents from the field offices, people who aren't assigned protection stuff. So guys and women who are doing strictly protection for the president, the vice president. So they're pulling agents from the field offices to staff these roles, and they're giving basically almost presidential level protection to these candidates. And it's specifically because of that attack on Bobby Kennedy.
Jeez. What how about the Reagan assassination attempt? I mean, that was, we have video of it. Obviously there's video of the other ones as well we talked about, but those photos, those black and white photos of the guys that are out there, like what lessons from that one?
Yeah, we don't have Uzis anymore. There's a lesson. No,
those photos are classic 80s.
Which I would have loved.
I know, classic.
You get to train with those. You do. You get to train with them. And
that's good.
It's a cool weapon, man.
I know. It's so cool.
No more Uzis.
Yeah.
So one of the things they learned is offsetting the press. And if you can notice, and arrival departures in executive protection are huge. And if you ever notice that arrival departures for the president, the vice president, sometimes you don't know where they're arriving or departing unless it's a very hardened location. And so we separate that from the public because you want some standoff. But if you notice, there were no agents. There may have been a police officer or two with all that press, that gaggle of people there. And now those press folk, they will get babysat. And there will be Secret Service agents. You will see Secret Service agents, and then you won't see some Secret Service agents. And that was another thing as well that they came. It's a learning experience. Unfortunately, the Secret Service is always learning, but the times it learns a lot is instances like that where the executive is being attacked or shot or hurt in something like that.
That's so crazy. I put that. Somebody in the crowd allude to it in the end of my last book. One of the shots that takes somebody out is from someone in the crowd. Who's a good guy. So you go through all that. You're back at your field office. You're doing the currency stuff, and then what happens from there? Do you go to these different field offices, or do you go right from there to like protecting the main man, or what is that like?
Yeah, you never just go like once you get hired, you don't go to PPD, the president's protective detail, with the vice president's protective detail. That never happens. Like you have to go and learn a little bit. Right? You know a lot, but you got to learn a little bit. So you do your criminal investigations, you do your protection also, where you're standing post, you're doing site advances, lead advances. my case, I started off in the Newark, New Jersey field office and transferred to the New York City field office.
Okay.
Where I got a ton more experience.
Yeah.
Where in New Jersey, I was doing a lot of criminal investigations, not so much protection unless I was being pulled for like if President Bush was going to like Waco, Texas, or he was doing, events in LA or wherever. But when I was in New York, because New York has the United Nations General Assembly, you get a lot of foreign heads of state. And as I said before, the Secret Service provides protection for the heads of state. I was doing a ton of site advances, lead advances, motorcade advances for some really high level, leaders of the world. Some who are our enemies. And that was one interesting thing they never told me about when I got hired by the Secret Service. I bleed, you cut me, I bleed red, white, and blue. And I would have taken a bullet for the president, regardless of who was in the office.
Yeah.
The office of the president, I would have jumped in front of that bullet because Secret Service agents are glorified meat shields. But I would have done that. I would lay down my life for not only my, the squad mates, but the president.
But
now
they don't
tell you
Putin comes to visit.
Yeah. Putin, or I 2 years in a row, I protected Ahmadinejad. What the hell was his name? The Iranian president, Ahmadinejad.
Yeah, man,
dude, he's an enemy of the United States.
Yeah,
it's clear, like
state sponsor of terrorism.
I had to protect him, and no one ever said, "Hey, you gotta protect him and make sure he's safe, and make sure no one gets to him."
You're like, wait a second. Shouldn't I be doing the opposite in this situation?
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense to me. But here I am making, and stressing over it, making sure that the guy is safe and protected, and working with their security apparatus as well. That comes into the.
That's probably interesting.
By the way, that's an interesting story. Just those visits when those types of folks are adversaries.
Yeah.
Political, economic, militarily.
Yeah.
Come into the United States for the United Nations General Assembly. So anyway, so you do that
because they're collecting, obviously. How nutty is that? That must be
bizarre,
crazy. And they have dip passports, right, or something along those lines.
Yep. Some of them do.
Yeah,
some of them do. I just real quick story about that because I just think it's hilarious. So they have their Air Force One.
Yeah.
I don't know what they called it.
Right.
It's like a 747 comes. It's a big plane, right? So it's landed at JFK. And I was doing the motorcade advance for this visit. So I got this huge motorcade. I got a ton of assets. I'm like, the logistics of getting from point A in JFK into downtown Manhattan, I got motors, you got armored vehicles. Like, it's crazy. I got air units, I got harbor units. Like, there's a lot of moving parts going on. So the plane lands, right? And it taxis over to a remote part of the airport, and they can't turn the engines off. And I never had seen this before. They literally cannot turn the engine off. Here's, this big plane is our adversary, right? He wants to you got TV cameras and shit there, and they can't turn the damn engine off. So they actually there's a machine. I didn't know they had one of these things. You had this big turbine. There's a machine that's located on the other side of the airport that they have to then bring all the way over, and it like clamps on the turbine, just like manually
turn it off from the outside.
Yeah. And then they can open the door and everybody can come walking out. But that was like 45 minutes. I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow. That's wild. Jeez.
Yeah. So
the switch, talk them through it. That's wild.
Dude, I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine if this was, the president of the United States going overseas to it would never happen, like Tehran, right? And it lands and, we can't turn the engines off.
Yeah.
Can you bring over a machine that stops it? That's idiots.
That's wild.
Anyway, so you do your criminal / protection stuff, your phase 1, and then your phase 2, DC calls and they go, you've had 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know what it is now, but generally right around that time of doing your criminal investigation. And now it's time. We need bodies down in Washington, D.C. and the president's or the vice president's detail.
Nice.
And we need 10 agents for POTUS and we need 10 agents for VP and these 10 and these 10 and go. Okay. And then they send you down and you get a bunch more training before you actually go to the details.
Okay.
And then you start and then you're on solely, that's all you do. You're not doing any criminal investigations anymore. You're doing executive protection.
No
That's
kidding. And so where did you go? Did you go to VP or president?
Yeah, I went to VP. So when I got sent down there, it was Biden. Biden was the VP at the time. So I was on his protective detail. And so I traveled for 3 years with him before I ended up leaving the Secret Service, going everywhere. It was like never home. Yeah. And the guy traveled all the time, every weekend, 2 times a week, because he was out there shaking hands and going on vacations and, doing what politicians do. And so, but once you're done with that, you can, and there are within
there's so many things I'd like to ask you right now, but I know I can't because I know you can't anscer. So we're just going to continue on.
We can talk off the record, but within that, you're not just the agent who's standing next to the protectee, next to the vice president, next to the president. So you see those people, and it's a gaggle of agents and staffers and whatnot. But as agents, you don't just do that. There are other units within, and some units we don't talk about because we don't, want that stuff out in public. But there are specialized stuff that you can get to do. Right. And so you spend some time doing the actual body work, like, the bodyguard work. Yeah. But there's a lot more behind the scenes that the public do not see that goes into protecting the president, the vice president.
I'm sure there's probably a lot more quote unquote important than
yes. Yeah. So
not important. That's the wrong word, but
no. But it is
security.
But it is, and it's robust. But Jack, if the men and women who are standing around the principal, the protectee, the vice president, the president have to react to something, the Secret Service has, whether the president gets hurt or the vice president gets hurt, the Secret Service has failed. Has completely failed. Yeah. Because it should never get to that point. Weapons should never come into an event. Known individuals who have a grudge or who are crazy or whatnot should never be able to get into an event. They should never. There's layers of security, and so one layer could break down, 2 layers could break down, 3 layers could break down. But if that happens, that's a complete failure. Yeah. And there are so many units and individuals and agents and mechanisms to prevent that from happening, because we've learned from the past. The Secret Service has learned from the past that if the guys are reacting and they're pulling people off the stage, like, it's a failure. Like that is a failure.
Yeah. If the counter assault team exits their vehicle,
oh my gosh, then it's I've had that happen overseas. Not here, but yeah. If that happens, dude, that's a bad day.
Yeah. Right.
You don't want that to happen. If you're a guy, I won't talk about it, but if some people have to come out of role and whatnot, that's a bad day. If you're protective intelligence folks are blaring on the radio because so-and-so's, 10 feet arm's length, from your principal, that's, someone fucked up. Yeah.
Oh, man, it's so wild. It seems stressful. Does it become normal, or is it always? Is it always? Are you, like you said, you're always switched on.
Always switched on.
Does that become normal, being switched on like that? And is it? Do you have to guard against becoming completely paranoid versus being just situationally aware, or what is that line? Do you talk about it? Do you think about it? What's that like?
All of the above, dude. Yeah. I'm paranoid generally. That's just my personality, right? You make a pretty good agent because you're just like, no, what if this happened? Not crazy paranoid, but paranoid that, some shit can go on. But your situational awareness, when you're doing executive protect, and you've done some, you have to be switched on. So the 100-mile motorcade in Iowa, where it's just cornfields, you want to zone out because it's just cornfields zipping by the motorcade. But guess what? You can't, dude. Yeah. You got to be switched on because there could be shit in there you don't know about. Yeah. It's stressful. And I will tell you, from when I left the Secret Service, I was doing my protection time. And so I felt like I was always switched on. But the interesting thing is, I didn't feel like I was always switched on.
But you were.
Until I left. And I took a different position within the government. Wasn't as high stress, wasn't doing anything crazy. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I was having anxiety attacks, panic attacks. I should be doing something. Why am I just sitting here? I should be doing something. And then that's when I realized, dude, I was always switched. That's not normal. Yeah. To always be like that. No. And the burnout the burnout could be definitely happens and is real.
Yeah. I mean, hypervigilance. It's this, we talk about it in the SEAL teams now, or the military in general now, I would think, because you're downrange, and even though you're quote unquote on a fob and safer, I guess, but even when you're sleeping, especially if you're like on vampire hours and you're working during the night and sleeping during the day, in the back of your mind, you know that someone could lob a mortar over the wall. And there's some things there that kind of prevent that, but not all the time. And depending on the base also. And you could just be kind of vaporized or blown up, just sitting there. And you have that in your head, even when you're sleeping, even if you don't know it. So they found that over the years too, that even though, okay, we're off mission, we did our debrief, we did our AAR, okay, now it's time to get some rest. You're not really getting rest, because in the back of your mind, there could be green on blue attack, there could be a mortar launch, there could be an RPG launch, there could be a full-on assault, whatever. Something can happen in there, and it's in the back of your mind, even though you don't know it, and that's causing some issues when guys get home and they can't flip that switch, they can't turn it off, and they get ambient for sleep on the flight back, and then they keep on that when they get home to try to get back on a good cycle, and then you start drinking a little bit, have some marital problems in there, whatever it might be. And it's not, and add some TBI, maybe you had, even if you didn't get blown up, maybe the car in front of you did, or maybe you're right there too close to a breach, or maybe you're on an internal breach that rocks you, or you're just shooting and getting that or you're next to the A-dub that's doing the same thing, or you're underneath the 50, your brain's rattled around at the same time. And then maybe you lose a friend or whatever else. Blame yourself. Like all those things cause such this crazy caustic cocktail, but it's, but the point being, the hypervigilance part of it. Like you're hypervigilant, you're on, this person is your responsibility. And now when you're not, you're still on. You have to figure that out. You have to, like, when you transition out, and are you talking about transitioning out to what you're doing now? Is that where you really transferred over to?
Transitioning out of the Secret Service into a different position where I'm not doing any of that stuff. And I was trying to explain to my wife, who's an agent, and I was like, it's like going 1,000 miles an hour to walking like that. And it was jolting. It took me about 6, 7, 8 months to actually come back from it, and just be like, okay, I can take a deep breath. I'm like, wow, I don't need to always be looking at every single car, looking at everyone. I still do it, but looking at hands, looking at waist, looking at ankles, looking inside cars, looking at whether the back tires are too low because it could be weighted down. I mean, just things that to me were like I was always doing constantly, regardless. I still do it today, obviously, but not to the same degree. And then throw into that, the Secret Service, one, has manpower issues, serious manpower issues. They have a morale issue. And then they have rotating shift issues where you're talking about the vampire hours. Just imagine doing all that on 2-week rotations for 6 years, for 7 years. It never turns off for that amount of time. And then at certain times it gets even amped up higher because you have an election and the president, the vice president are out doing 5 city stops a day or 2 city stops a day.
That's pretty wild.
I could tell you instances where I was on, not so much Biden's detail, but in the 2008 campaign, I was on Sarah Palin's protective detail. And I remember waking up several times in a hotel room, not knowing where I was in a hotel room. I wasn't like in a fob, right? I was like, but in a hotel room in the United States, but I didn't know where the fuck I was.
Yeah.
And I had to look at the phone and be like, oh, yeah, all right, St. Paul, Minnesota, or like Des Moines, Iowa. Like, how the fuck did we get here? Or, Colorado. Like, what?
I totally get it. That's why I'm so forgiving. I felt like that on this last book tour, by the way, David Brown, if you're listening. I felt that way. I'm like, okay, where am I? I signed books till 1 a.m, and now I'm up for a 5:30 flight a couple hours later, but I had to get back to my hotel, grab something to eat because I didn't have dinner. So I'm going to the little snack machine. And I'm like, okay, where am I? Okay, Denver. Okay. Yep. Okay, is there a car? Okay, like all that stuff. So I totally get what you're talking about. And I've always been fairly forgiving of candidates when they're like, hey, Kansas City, but they're, in Miami.
They're in Phoenix.
Exactly. Like, cause you get it. Cause that's like, because they're kind of on a cycle like that too. And they're on in front of a camera and they're talking and they have talking points and, they're tired too. And so I'm always like, and they get blasted, what an idiot. They don't know where they are, but at the same time, I'm like,
Dude, I could have been guilty of that too.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what's it? I'm like, I don't know. I don't care.
So I try to be, forgiveness is a powerful thing, personally and just when you're looking at things from the outside. But, oh man, that is wild.
But you get you get to meet some amazing people. I got to work with, so the Navy SEALs get the best of the best, right? And the Secret Service, they hire the best of the best, right? They make sure that they weed out, some shitbirds get through, obviously, in any organization. But you weed those out, and you end up working with the best men and women that this country really has to offer. People who are willing to put everything on the line. Mm-hmm. You were talking about like marital issues, like people who are willing to push aside their children and their wives and their personal lives to get the mission done. And we need individuals like that. Otherwise, this country just doesn't exist.
Yeah, you talk about it in Drone Kings. It's in the story. It's in the books. Did you notice in the terminal list in episode 3, right before I get whacked, when he's in that restaurant, jumps over that little railing, and then he pulls out his pistol and he's moving. And I was walking through that with Chris, and I was like, okay, you got to look up. Like no one's gonna, like most of these shows, like people will notice, like people that know what they're doing will look up. If you have experience in Iraq and Afghanistan and you're coming out, you're looking up. And so there's that, and then you can't pass this car, without looking in. You can't look by. You have to look. No. And so we captured that on film. We have him looking up. If you'll notice when he jumps over that railing before our little gunfight, he's going through that alley and he's looking up, and Katie's behind him. Just trying to catch up, figure out what's going on. But he looks up. He's looking he's up, and then he's looking as he passes the cars. He's looking in the windows as he gets to the Land Cruiser, and then pulls out.
It's 360 when you're doing stuff like that. But with the secret, it's 360, and that's why the Secret Service deploys counter snipers. Yeah. We have guys up on the roof because threats come from everywhere. And walking by, I remember specifically having a scenario when I was going through the Secret Service Academy, walking by a car, and if I had looked in, I wouldn't have seen the shooter laying down in the back seat who would have popped up and got me in the back, or my partner in the back, if I had noticed it.
Yeah.
Those things are, those are real things.
They are. No,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's why you bring that realism. And then we were talking about that before, about having the author who has a ton of, real world experience, bringing that into the show, into the script, and you're able to provide that realism. And it's just all those little things. It may not seem like a lot in that one scene, but all those little things just add up and give the entire series authenticity.
Yeah. And I was like, I couldn't be there every day. If I lived in LA, I would have been on set every day. But I was there. I wanted to say thank you to every director, because we had multiple directors. So I wanted to be able to shake their hands and thank them. But spend a week on set at a time. And, the little things like that, I wanted the person like you with a background to sit on the couch and grab a drink and be looking and be like, oh, no way. Looked in the car. Awesome. Right. He looked up, looked up for snipers. Always. So yeah, especially this guy is a sniper. James Reese is a sniper, so he's going to be looking out for people like him. I love those little things in there. I've really wanted to make sure that we got those little things for people like you, people who've been downrange over the last 20 years. Those little things are for them. I thought that was really important as we film this thing. But for you guys also, do you study recruitment by foreign adversaries, like that sort of a thing? Like when you're on the road, and what were you approached, or are there stories of agents being approached and that sort of a thing? Like how common, I guess, is that sort of a thing, or how common was it during the Cold War even versus today?
Yeah, so there's a lot of. It was built up probably within the last 20 plus years, more so within the last 20 years, the protective intelligence. And when we would go overseas, that protective intelligence briefing that you would get, the honeypot stuff that would happen. So
that's a real thing.
It's completely a real thing. And we would have scenarios where, we would do that stuff. Right. And then they would show case scenarios where this is how approached, and this is how, but all those contacts, and I can't say it's never happened because I don't know whether it's happened but been caught before anything compromising has happened. We study those. We're warned about those. We talk about those often. A lot of single Secret Service agents like to use the badge to pick up women, I guess. I don't know, maybe because what was the one briefing we had? One briefing like, you guys may think you're special because you're special agents and you're Secret Service agents, and you think you're good looking, but you're not. And so if the pretty redhead with the green eyes comes walking over to you and is so interested into everything you do, and you're gonna take her back to your room.
This girl really likes me.
She's not into you, buddy. She's into what you have, what you know, what may be around your room, and she's gathering intel on you and the agency. And so don't be that guy.
Right. FIS, Foreign Intelligence Service. Yeah. Interesting. That's wild, man. Wild. And so when you see a Secret Service movie then, there's I guess there's quite a few there are with the Gerard Butler ones, which I love watching. I think those are so much. Actually, the last one was really cool. They were hopefully
action
cool,
packed.
Yeah, I love those. They did a great job with those. I thought In the Line of Fire, of course. Classic. I remember watching that in the theater back in the day. Those. Then when you see those, do you enjoy them? Or do you sit down? Or are you picking things out? Are you trying not to? Or what's?
I try not to.
Yeah,
I try not to. I mean, some of them get close. All of them get it wrong. Yeah. Obviously. I think the one that got it close was the Kiefer Sutherland one with Michael Douglas.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. What was that?
Yeah, the Sentinel.
Okay. Yeah.
That one got kind of close.
Okay. I gotta watch that one again.
It was pretty good. It got kind of close. There were a couple of things and I do pick out the thing. I have my wife. She's
picking it out.
She's a female Secret Service agent, right? And in one of I think Eva Longoria was in that movie, and I remember she was doing something, and she was like in heels. And I'm like, no, that's just never happening. You will never see a Secret Service agent in heels. I'm like, that's just stupid. But she looked good, so it worked. But there was one at the very end where Michael Douglas. He's leaving the job. Like he's retired. He's done. He's got his box and he's walking away and the job goes on. Like, thank you for your service. Your 20 plus years, handshake. Here's your plaque. Thank you. There's the door. We're busy.
Yeah. They have a mission to do.
And I was just like, dude, that's the fucking job. Yep. Like, that's crazy.
Same thing in the SEAL teams. They have a mission to do. And I think it was helpful for us to make a physical and psychological break with the teams by moving from Coronado, California and moving to a new spot. Because they have a mission to do. The same guys you were just with, shoulder to shoulder, essentially in the trenches, best friends with, teammates, trusting one another. Guess what? They have to train and prepare for war and go if called. And, that's their focus. And I get it. I always understood that. It's time to flip the page and move on and let them do the job. But same thing in a lot of these professions.
I do like the movies and I appreciate them. I also appreciate the idea that the Secret Service agents like Gerard Butler are all ass kickers.
Yeah.
Like we all know how to fight. We
I like that last one, man. That was
Don't fuck
sweet.
with us.
Yeah. I mean, your compound might have all those claymores strung out like his dad does. Remember that? That was rad.
Dude, awesome. Some of the you like entertainment wise, I'm like, it's fucking awesome, but I don't have any claymores. Like it's fucking
Speak
crazy.
for yourself. Just kidding.
God bless you.
No,
listen,
just kidding.
Everyone
Everyone who's listening right now, I don't really have them strung all over the property,
dude,
just in case.
I couldn't have Northern Virginia.
that was cool. Hey, those are
I love it
cool
though.
Films. Yeah, probably good for recruitment. Probably good for recruitment.
Well, that was one thing I thought we would talk about, recruitment and the manpower shortage. Who was I talking? I was just talking to recently. So they passed that bill, right? And everyone's clamoring about this 87,000 new IRS agents.
Armed IRS agents. Armed is what.
So some are support.
Do you see some of that training videos? Those training videos look legit. It's
hardcore. Listen, it's tough doing tax returns. But here's the thing.
I don't know how that video got out. I mean, that was.
They shouldn't do any of that.
I'm going to stop talking about it right now. I just can't.
But here's the thing, Jack. 87,000, right? They're going to hire 87,000.
Mm-hmm.
The Secret Service, the FBI, the Border Patrol, the DEA, Department of Justice, like all of these other agencies, ICE, are trying to hire people, right? They have these goals to meet. The military has the same goal, right? Mm-hmm. They have quotas they have to reach. The Secret Service is running so far below any of their recruitment goals. Mm-hmm. On top of that, they have a manpower shortage. Like if I remember how many agents were in particular offices, and I can tell you numbers, it's they are far short from when I was an agent. Like the numbers through attrition, through people retiring, people like myself going to a different agency, or just leaving the job altogether and going to private sector. And then those spots aren't backfilled because there's just not enough people, not enough applicants. So all those agencies are vying for the same group of people, like the same type.
Well,
same
let's hope they're not vying for some of the people I saw in those videos. Like, I think the Secret Service would be better served not to have hired any of those people I saw in the videos.
They would weed out those people.
Yeah.
But there's no way. My point is, there's no way that they're gonna find 87. Well, that's not true. Qualified applicants. There's no way they will find 87,000 qualified applicants to fill those positions when every other agency is looking. So they may get the dregs, and then that's
I see a comedy. I see a comedy in those 87,000 armed IRS agents in those videos. That's like there is some gold there for Hollywood to go in and, back to kind of like a nod to the Spies Like Us days, that sort of thing, Stripes, and then make a modern one like that with this IRS, these guys. Anyway, there's something there for screenwriters that are listening, but that's that's tough. That's because you want people to join, especially the Secret Service, for the right reasons. You want them there for the right reasons. That incentive is obviously to serve and to protect. Same thing in the military. It's not like, let's offer a bonus, because for a while we started offering, I think you get not when I did it, but you got like $10,000 if you made it through Hell Week or something like that. Regardless, some sort of a financial incentive, and that. We realized that that's not the right incentive. We shouldn't have even had to realize that. We shouldn't have even had to test that out. It seems fairly obvious. But you can treat people better, obviously, but and give them opportunity, obviously, give them great training, obviously, those sorts of things. But the financial piece, it didn't work out for us. But point being, you want people to join for the right reasons.
For the right reason, yeah. But and then you have to keep the so. Secret Service spends a lot of money training their folks. They get but they get the best training that the government can provide. And they bring people who are experts in like snipers and whatnot. Yeah. We bring all those folks in to train Secret Service agents on how to do it right. The best practices. Where am I going with this? But
manpower.
So manpower. There's just not enough Secret Service agents to do the job.
Yeah.
And here's the other crazy thing is you want to. Here's where I was going. You want to retain those individuals, and compensation is a part of it because you're an employee, you're a federal government employee. So a Secret Service agent makes the same amount of money as an IRS agent.
Oh,
the same amount as an
brutal.
FBI.
You gotta have
an FBI agent.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing: the same amount as an OIG, Office of Inspector General, of the Small Business Administration, or the OIG of the Veterans Administration, or the OIG. So they all have special agents within those agencies who conduct fraud investigations.
Yeah.
Procurement fraud investigations.
So you're working way harder for the same amount of someone.
Not only way harder, but your job description, and I had a hard time getting supplemental life insurance because of this. Your job description is, and I mentioned it briefly, is you're a glorified meat shield.
Yeah.
Like you're there, you're a buffer of flesh.
Right.
That is your job, to slow down an attack to allow the president, the vice president to get out of town.
Yeah.
That's your job. So you're paying the Secret Service agent the same amount as the IRS agent?
Right.
Like, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, and it's codified. Like, you can't, like, I think the most a Secret Service agent or any federal 1811 criminal investigator can make, the most they can make on a yearly basis is what a junior congressperson makes.
Yeah.
So it's like $180,000, whatever it is. It's a lot of money, right? It is. It's a ton of money. But you gotta understand, Secret Service agents are working a shit ton of hours they're not getting paid for,
and it's still taxed.
They're getting all this training, and it's taxed. But they're also there's a yearly cap and there's a biweekly cap, and I can't tell you how many times, Jack, I have worked, and my wife too, have worked and hit that salary cap, and the week is only half over, and I'm just like, all those extra hours that I'm working, all those.
So there's no overtime, like I don't know, police officer, firefighter, or something like that.
You hit that cap, and it goes. It's God and country. Thank you for your service. And we'll hold on to it, and maybe we'll cut you a check next March if it's within the budget still.
And that, whatever that cap is or whatever you've done, I mean, you just cut off, let's say 38%, whatever, taxes, whatever, gone. So it's not really that much, but, man, it seems like there should be special duty pay. Like in the military, we have, your rank or whatever, and you have your whatever you get paid for that. But then you have like demo pay, you have dive pay, you have jump pay, hazardous duty pay. When you're overseas, it's not taxed.
Yeah, we would get that
combat pay. So it's like those ones add up. And I think they add up. That adds quite a bit. That's why a lot of guys get out and they're surprised, like, oh wait, where did all this go? Because in their mind, they're cutting like in half on their retirement. But a lot of that was special pays, and that's not included in any of your retirement type stuff. So they're like, wait, what is that? Well, huh? And there's like, I think there's like uniform stipend or something. But regardless, I don't know. I never paid attention to any of that stuff. It was like, that was not, anyway, I didn't pay attention to any of that. But it seems like there should be some hazardous duty pay for you guys for Secret Service. There should be some demo
only when
pay,
you went overseas.
Only
when you went overseas, man.
There should be crazy. All the time. It seems like there's that. Then it seems like that would be something that maybe could be done for Secret Service.
I would think Congress would pass something, but they're
ridiculous. Nope. That's ridiculous.
Even if you get those special, I did a bunch of that special trainings, and they have special units within this. You don't get that extra. There's no extra pay. You can get, and it's just through tenure. Like if you have 15 years on the job, you can apply for and generally receive senior special agent status, and it's a stipend of a couple $1,000s a year. Which, if you break that down at 26.1 payments, it's like $100 a paycheck or some shit.
Right. No, the special pays are significant in the military, and they should be for you guys as well. That's pretty ridiculous. So incentive wise, you really have to want to protect the president. You really have to be fired up about this counterfeit currency, that sort of a thing. That's tough, man. That is a really tough place to be. We need more Gerard Butler movies, obviously, one. And then two, we need special pays. So anybody listening right now, Gerard Butler, was it a fourth one he needs to do? I think there's three, right?
I think there's three. Yeah.
Three. In this country, one in London, and then the other one, the Fallen. So I think there's, so make a fourth, and then Congress, come on. Hopefully we get some more military guys in there that can look at this and be like, oh wait, I had special pays in the military and special operations. Look at this guy out here. If we want some good people in this, and there's a manpower shortage, do the math, and maybe some special pays could help.
Yeah, I mentioned it a couple of times. My wife's a Secret Service agent, and she's a boss within the Secret Service. And when I was an agent, bosses really didn't go and stand post too much. But right now, because of there's not enough folks, and the mission has grown exponentially, the bosses are having to go out and stand post. And that's just like the bosses should be doing management type stuff, right? I get it, and boss stuff, not standing 12 hours next to a dumpster or stairwell, which is it needs to be done, but.
Right. Oh, man, that is wild. Well, when did the writing thing start then? Did you, since you're a little kid, were you reading the same books that I was growing up? And then you always had this in your head to do at some point. And then at what point do you start writing these when you're in the Secret Service?
So I always, like you, always wanted to be a writer. I know your mom was a librarian. My mom used to take me to the library all the time. And I remember as a little kid, I would get like upset stomach going to the library, and not because I didn't want to be there, but because there were so many books there, and I wanted to read them all, but I knew I couldn't, and I knew there were stories in there, and I just wanted to like dive into everything. And so I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be an author. I wrote short stories as a kid. As a kid, I read a lot of fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons type stuff, and I still love that stuff to this day. Nice. As I got older, then I started reading Clancy, Ludlum, and then in college, I graduated college in 2000. I started reading Vince Flynn, and then Brad Thor came out, and then it was from there. It's just like, this is what I like. This is what I want to read. And then as I read that, I was like, I want to write one of these. And then life gets crazy. I had a very hectic, stressful job. I got married, had kids. I leave the Secret Service, And I had a bucket list of things that I wanted to do. One of those was to do a fitness men's bodybuilding competition thing. So, and then one of those things was to actually.
Did you do that?
I did.
I'm looking that up online. I'm looking.
Yeah. Good luck. Tell me.
If I'd known that before, we'd be putting one on the screen right now.
That's why I didn't say shit.
It's not in your bio.
No, it's not. It's not. But it's there.
Awesome.
Anyway, but it was on a bucket list because I was into fitness. I did personal training. My brother and sister were personal trainers at one point. So, fitness was a big thing. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to do something like that.
Was it?
And then when I finished that, it was cool. Really cool experience. When I finished that, I was like, next thing on the list is writing a book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, what do I love to read? Thrillers. All right. Who's going to be my protagonist? Fucking Secret Service guy. All right. What happened? Why are people going to care? Why do people want to read it? What's going to start the story? And I was like, well, what's going on at the time? And Afghanistan was still going on at the time. And I was just like, it's drones, it's the Taliban, the Secret Service, and it's revenge. Figure out a story. And then from there, I just started writing.
Nice. No, it's fantastic. And when did you write that? Were you still in, or was it right when you got out? So it's after you got out, and you got out.
Yeah, it was after I got out.
What year did you get out?
2013, actually.
Okay, so you get out and you get your Arnold on at the fitness competition.
I got my Arnold on.
Nice.
My wife started traveling a bunch. I had 2 small children, so I was like working full time, but also doing daddy duties. And that was one of the reasons why. Well, actually, the reason why I left the Secret Service was for my children, because my wife was traveling, I was traveling. We had a live-in nanny, like someone else was raising my kids, and I was like, you know what? I have this opportunity. These folks have approached me. We're going to, take this job over here, do this thing. And it allows me to be an influence on my children. So, so I ended up doing that.
Yeah.
And did the Arnold thing. And then I sat down, I was like, any spare time I have, I'm going to write this story. And it took some time because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Right. Man. And where did the Civil War buff history that obviously you're passionate about? I mean, it's woven into the story multiple times. When did you start studying that? Is it you've always studied that, or what's the story behind that side of the things?
I always studied it. I got more fascinated by when I was actually in the Secret Service. One of the cool things about Secret Service is I got to travel a bunch. Like I traveled the world. I've traveled the country. I've been to a lot of places, and I've had the opportunity when I've had some downtime to be near some battlefields, and there's just so much history within the United States, and the Civil War by itself just fascinates me because it's very similar to I see like what's going on today. I see very similar themes and issues, and the brother versus brother, how the generals all went to West Point. They all knew each other. They were all friends. They all fought in the Mexican-American War together. Not all, but most of them.
There's VMI in there too, right?
What's that?
Was there VMI in there?
VMI was in there. You had Stonewall Jackson who was teaching at VMI. And now I've lived in Northern Virginia for X amount of years, and I'm surrounded by this history. I'm surrounded by the Confederate history, the Union history, the battles, the people. And I was just so curious, not so much about, I love the tactics that were used in the battles, but the motivations of the individuals. And it's not so black and white. In some instances, it is black and white. And in some other instances, it's not black and white. And it's those stories that I was just gravitated towards.
Yeah.
And so like, you can't see it, but back here is bookshelves and bookshelves and bookshelves.
Yeah.
Kind of like your house.
Yeah.
And, I have a whole bookshelf that's just all Civil War stuff. And so I wanted to incorporate some of that into my writings because there's some really, really interesting, not just quotes, but just ideas on warfare, on tactics, on winning the hearts and minds of the people that were fighting. And in that instance, we were fighting ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to incorporate some of that. And I think I incorporate Arlington National Cemetery in it. And a lot of people don't realize Arlington was the home of Robert E. Lee. Yeah. And the Union had taken it away from him because they needed a place to bury. There was so many soldiers were killed in that war, Union soldiers. They needed a place to bury the soldiers. And so they took that from him. And they started burying soldiers on there. And so I wanted to incorporate some of the lessons that were learned. And from those wars, and I just wanted that to be a central point that my characters can pull from some of the instances that happen.
No, you do a fantastic job with it, and that's the one thing that gives me hope today. You know, we seem there's so much division, and it's I mean, you have politics and tech, and I frame it as everybody else is walking into this ambush. Tech up here, politicians right here, and you're walking into this thing, and they're the ones that benefit from division, essentially, to galvanize bases on this side, obviously to make a profit on this side, and that connection in the gray area is that influence of not just behaviors but thoughts. And so we're walking right into that. And I'm curious if after the Civil War, if we did have social media at the time, if we would still be a country today.
You know what? I don't know. That'd be interesting. I mean, they're equivalent to social media, the newspapers. I mean, everybody was reading the newspapers, and there was wide distribution, and there were many different outlets, different points of view and editorials. So I mean, they had their. I guess it was not as prevalent as social media is today.
A constant buzz in your pocket that's requiring you to take an action, and that action is not to bring together, but to continue to divide. And I think the one difference we had at the time, and whether you agree with him or not, Abraham Lincoln decided not to persecute any of the officers that were involved in the Civil War. There was, and I found this out just reading, there was an indictment levied against Lee and a whole bunch of other of the generals, but it was they didn't continue with it. They thought they threw out the indictment. They didn't start with it, and he blanket pardoned basically everybody. And so I think without that. Yeah, I think it without that, without having an individual there to provide that this is the path we're taking. Mm-hmm. We're going to unite. We're going to forgive, and we're going to move on. We really don't have that today. We have a lot of in your face. Oh yeah, because some people benefit. Those people on other sides of the ambush. But I think I used Lincoln's second inaugural. I think they used those words in one of my, not either the last one or the one before, either Devil's Hand or In the Blood. I incorporate that in there in a sentence or two. It's an important one for people to read. Anybody listens to this should definitely go read that second inaugural.
What what's fascinating about the Civil War also is that after writing Drone Kings, I wrote a sequel to it, and then I was like, well, as I was trying to get that book published, I was like, what do I really want to write? And because I consider myself a history nerd and Civil War, I was like, how can I marry those two things together? Secret Service, stuff that I know I have intimate knowledge about, and Civil War, which just fascinates me. How can I bring those two together? And so then I was like, I could write historical fiction with that, with the opening scene at Appomattox Courthouse. Appomattox Courthouse is where Robert E. Lee surrenders to Ulysses S. Grant. And it was only like when that happens, the war is essentially over. It doesn't end for a little bit, like hostilities don't end for a little bit later. But at that point, the war is over. Like the Union has won. Yeah. But it's only a short couple of days after that, 5 days, I think, that Abraham Lincoln is assassinated. Okay. And I was just fascinated.
Man, so you're writing that now? Is that your next project?
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. That's my project now.
I love it. No, that's awesome. I can't wait to read that one. Man, that sounds awesome. And then the crew reviews. Yeah. When did you guys start this up? How did your little band of brothers get together and start cooking this thing up?
So Mike Houts and Sean Cameron and I, we met at Thriller Fest 2019. We actually met you there, I think, for the first time. We had talked through social media and offline or whatnot, but we actually met you in person. Yeah. I think you had flown in last minute from Africa. Yeah, I think you did that.
I cut the trip short by a day or two, or something. And I came in. I was zero sleep, and that was awesome though,
dude. Yeah, but you would have never known because you were so gracious. You were talking to everybody. You were at the bar. We were actually at the bar talking with you. Brad Taylor was there. Don Bentley was there. David Brown, your publicist at Atria Books, was there. And he was listening to Mike, Sean, and me. We were talking. He goes, how long have you guys known each other? Have you known each other from college? Like, we just fucking met. Are you kidding me? But we had interacted on social media also. Uh-huh. And he's like, wow, you guys should have a podcast. And me being, I'm like, what the podcast. Do with a podcast. I'm like, that's just silly. And then, I did some looking at it. I was like, dude, this is a crazy podcast. I'm like, this could actually be a thing. And then Mike Houts was like, we should definitely do a podcast. And so we wrote up this business plan. We all got together and we're like, all right, let's do this. Let's find some authors that we could talk to, kind of like similar what you do, go beyond the books, talk about their career, talk about the story, talk about the process, provide some insight behind the scenes, what's going on in the industry type stuff. And you, in fact, were our very first guest.
There we go. That was awesome. I mean, I love what you guys do because it's like a master class in writing, with insights into the industry for anyone who wants to get into publishing, get into writing. These things are like a master class you have Lee Child on there, you have all these people on there, and everybody has some great insights. They have every single person has at least one like nugget for sure.
Oh my gosh.
And all the conversations are so fascinating. But all authors should listen. Anybody who's aspiring to be an author and who's interested in their favorite author, obviously. So, so I love listening to those. I get a lot out of it, and you guys do a great job, in these conversations, but it's amazing. The crew reviews.
There it is. You know what we like, Jack, because when we were researching it, we saw that a lot of author interviews, they can be pretty dry.
Yeah.
Kind of boring maybe. And so we wanted to liven that up. And how do you liven up anything?
Alcohol.
Little High West, right?
There it is. It is right there. Yep. Nice. So, I like it.
So we all met at the bar. And so we're like, our theme should be, you meet your favorite author, because we're fans first and foremost. Yep. Meet your favorite author at a bar, ask them some questions, drink some booze, and have a good time and laugh.
Yeah.
And make the audience laugh, if you can.
No, you guys do. I love it. But sometimes we need to work on scheduling them for like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. Because sometimes it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I got kid pickup, going on. We got to figure this out a little better.
I think that's happened the last
two times. Yeah, not the first time, but the other ones. I think I had to go to lacrosse practice. I didn't want to show up, smelling like a brewery. So that's okay. So the timing is key. But yeah, so from those interviews, what are some things that stand out to you from all of those amazing authors that you've talked to over the last couple of years? There are a few either standout authors who you didn't know before and were super inspired by, or pieces of advice from people. Like, what are some of your takeaways from all those interviews and conversations that you've had over the last couple of years?
So it's been I think 3 years now. It's been 3 years. We have over 140 interviews or whatever it is. We have talked to some of the biggest names in the industry, from Michael Connolly to Lee Child to Bob Crace, like Brad Meltzer, Mark Graney, and then we've also talked to a whole bunch of up and coming folks who are just have some amazing abilities and skills, and it's just inspiring. There's so many like little nuggets. You can't see my screen, but I have like Post-its, and there's so many different things. Who was just on recently? Someone else from Atria Publishing, William Kent Kruger.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
His latest book, Fox Creek, came out.
Yeah.
It's the 19th Cork O'Connor story. Yeah. It's a fantastic story. What
a great guy.
He mentioned, and I'll read this, pace. So this is about the craft of writing. Pace is important to keep suspense, but conflict drives great stories. And I was like, that's important. Let me write that one down.
Yeah. And every one of the episodes has something like that in there.
It's unreal. Like, we got to speak, and I know you have as well, David Morrell, and we ended up making it a 2-part interview just because there was just so much. We could have made it even longer, but there was just so much information there.
It's so great.
And you can't get it anywhere. You can't get that anywhere else.
No,
right? I mean, I know he wrote a book on writing and stuff, but just to hear him talk about all those things, we also have the opportunity to talk to authors that I wouldn't have known about, because publicists send us their books and like, would you please have this individual to debut, or this is their second or third book? Can you have them on your show? And so you read the book and you're just like, holy crap, this person's amazing.
Yeah.
There's this one author, he writes crime noir. His name's Sean Cosby, S.A. Cosby.
Okay.
He wrote this fantastic book 2 years ago called Blacktop Wasteland. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So it takes place in southeastern Virginia. The main protagonist is African American. It's a great story. Loved it. I was like, dude, I can't wait till his next book comes out. His next book came out was Razorblade Tears. One of the best books I've ever read.
Nice.
And you would think he came out of nowhere. And what's fascinating is you talk to these individuals and they're like, no, they've been writing this entire time. They've been writing short stories and trying to get things published and just honing and refining their craft.
Yeah.
And then they finally, get their one book published and it looks like they just came out of nowhere, but they're like, no, dude, they've been working on this forever.
Yeah.
Also, Bob Dugani. Bob Dugani writes some really amazing stories. And he just wrote The World Played Chess, which was my favorite read of last year.
I'll have to read that.
It's a coming of age story. It's a war story, has to deal with the Vietnam War, but it hits everything. Like it's just the pacing, the suspense, the characters. Like it is an amazing story, and he's an amazing author. And I was just like, I'll read whatever you write now, dude, because I am a fan.
Yeah.
Then you have Greg Hurwitz, who writes, I think, bar none, the best thrillers that you could find anywhere. Like he's so good. I think he's a fantastic author. There's you, obviously. I'm reading all of your books. I'm a huge fan. There's Kyle Mills. There's just so much that we get out of that. That I it's so funny. My parents, they like to watch our podcast. They're like, why are these people coming on and talking to you? I'm like, I have no idea, but it's utterly amazing. So yes, thecrewreviews.com. If you go on there, you'll see all our interviews. We liven it up. We drink a lot of booze. And sometimes at the end of the show, we'll do some outtakes where one of us will have had too much to drink and we show you the stupid.
Yeah. Do you actually review anything on the crew reviews? I know that's something that comes up quite often.
Yeah, no, so there's two things. We have the crew reviews and we really don't review anything.
Yeah. I think that's a part of the deal, the thing, it's become a thing.
And then at the end we have, we always like to leave on a laugh. We have the lightning round.
Yes.
And there's really nothing lightning about it.
No, no. You're like, here's the lightning round. And then I do the same thing. You ask me and I ask the answer in 5 minutes, 6, 7 minutes, maybe the questions are just too perceptive. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so everything we do is kind of like, it's not what we initially aimed for, but it works.
No, it's awesome.
Everybody we talk to, all the authors that come on, we've talked to a bunch. We've talked some people at the pinnacle of their career, some who are just starting out. It's like, you had a blast on the show. Thank you so much for making it warm and inviting and fun.
No, it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. I love it. I thank you guys for having me on. And I love what Lee Child said. You had him on as he was retiring, as he was starting to write the series with his brother in that turnover phase. And he was like, I think one of you guys asked him what he's looking forward to most about retirement. And he said, I'm looking forward to reading for pleasure again.
Yeah.
And now that really stood out to me because I get it. Because I'm like, wow, I would really like to spend a little more time in these pages, but either the person's coming on the podcast or it's research or I have a deadline or I got to pick the kids up at soccer or whatever it is. So it was interesting to hear him say that. And I completely understand now.
Oh, I get that.
Because you get a lot of books sent. People ask for, blurbs and forwards, that sort of a thing. And you're trying to juggle it all and figure out when and all that. So
and you don't want to say no. You really don't want to say no. I have that same problem. My to be read pile just for our podcast is like stupid high. And then I have the books I want to read for the stuff I'm writing now because I was telling before it's historical fiction, so it's historical fact that I want to make sure I get that right. But then there's like the other stuff I want to read, like sci-fi, fantasy, and and my nonfiction, like where the fuck am I going to find time to read all that shit? Plus, I got kids, and like
those kids,
I got a job, I got a dog, I got cats,
you got cats too, dogs and cats, cats and dogs living together. Ghostbusters. Yeah,
Ghostbusters. Yeah, I loved it. The world's coming to an end.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh man, did you see there's a new Fletch coming out?
No,
movie.
Click on after this, go to YouTube and check it out. Speaking of a book, a film, classics. Yeah. I'm fairly intrigued.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. John Hamm. I know. Cause Fletch is.
Oh, John Hamm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is interesting. It is very interesting.
That maybe a little bit. I mean,
yeah,
that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's a tough thing to step into. I know. It's really tough thing to step into. It popped up once again, like these tech companies that we just talked about. Like they know. I don't think I've ever looked up Fletch. I can tell you pretty much every line, or I could have anyway. A few years ago, I told you the whole movie back to front. And it popped up on those things that you might like. You know, I've never done a Google search. I've never even said it out loud, I don't think. But it knows. They know. So it popped up and I clicked on it and I'm like, whoa, John Hamm. I'm like, interesting. At first I was the same thing. I had the same reaction as you. I was like, oh, no, you can't mess with that. No. And then I saw John Hamm and I'm like, oh, interesting. That's an interesting take. So we'll see. We'll see. You can tell he studied it too. You can tell, I think, and I'll be looking for this in his interviews when it starts coming out, if he was a fan, like if he was a longtime Fletch fan.
Right.
I'm guessing he was. Exactly. I'm guessing he was because of just the clips that they show in the preview that's out there. And after we're done, check it out. But I think you'll think the same thing. You're like, okay, this guy was a fan.
Oh, so is it already been filmed?
I think so. Yeah. Cause the preview's out.
Oh yeah. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
It's in post. There's the one. Yeah. Here's the one thing I don't like about Hollywood is that there's so much original content out there.
Yeah.
Like if they were to just go and get some original content, like why are we going back? I get it. They're very risk adverse.
Yeah, I think they're like fan base already there, you know, that sort of a thing. So I see the temptation. Annoying. I know I see the temptation. There's a couple things I'd like to see made. I won't say one of them because I want to do it maybe one day, but I think it's past. I think I missed it. I think it had to be done in about 87. Maybe 88. So I don't think you can do it, but there's some that I'd love to see remade. And I'll mention one because I know I already tried because it's the rights are already, no one's getting rid of it. Wild Bunch. I mean, such a classic. 1969. You have Wild Bunch. You have Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and you have True Grit all coming out in the same year. Yeah. All very different. One speaks to the past, True Grit. One to the present, Butch Cassidy, 1969. You know, you can tell obviously from the music choices and things in there. And then you have the future with the Wild Bunch. And if you could do the Wild Bunch with like some modern, instead of ketchup packets kind of exploding on people and that sort of a thing, and take some of the semi-funky scenes out of there that are semi-disturbing, if you know what I mean, if you watch the film. And like, but keep it true to its core, that transition, you know, gunfighter to modern times, and just film it with some modern techniques, but not jack it up, not make it modern day, make it back then, but with modern filming techniques. That would be pretty cool. I think you could crush. But anyway, we'll see. But the rights are already checked.
You already checked, yeah. Well, you know what? Here's one. You know, I was talking about original content. Here's one story I think deserves to be made. We had Tim Brady on the Crew Reviews. He's an author. He writes nonfiction, and he wrote this story, Three Ordinary Girls. And it has to deal with the Dutch resistance during World War II. Cool. And three girls who were assassins for the Dutch resistance.
I think I heard about this or watched something on it over the last year or two.
You have to read this book. It's called Three Ordinary Girls by Tim Brady. It is a fascinating read. And if I hadn't known that it was true, nonfiction, I would have been like, this is a fantastic thriller.
Yeah.
He does such an amazing job highlighting the things and the skills and the tribulations that these three women had to go through during the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands, and then the amazing feats that they do. So you know, when we write stories, you have car chases and running gun battles and stuff like that, and assassinations. You know, sniper, like you have the sniper.
I'm fairly familiar
or whatever. You're familiar with it. How about an assassination, not a running gun battle, but on bicycles, because it's the Netherlands during World War II. That's crazy. So there's a shootout between good guys and bad guys on bicycles.
That's wild. Yeah.
But it really happened. Like that's.
I'm going to check that out.
Amazing stuff. Yeah.
I'm definitely going to check that one out. Man.
Yeah. Great story. I'd love to see that be made into a movie.
Yeah. No, there's so many things that are amazing out there, but once again, you have certain
assets to allocate, finances, people, and they got to rack and stack all those different projects in Hollywood. And it's a crazy place out there.
Well, that's why we were pleasantly surprised and so happy for you that the terminal list got not only optioned, but then, it made it to the point where I actually went into production, because so many things, and we get to talk to so many authors where stuff gets optioned and you're right there, and, people are getting hired, and then the floor falls out from underneath the production, and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
And, gets everyone's hopes up high, and you think it's going to happen. And for the terminal list to actually be made, dude, that's something special. It's an amazing thing.
Thank you. No, I learned a ton. Definitely learned a ton. I'm fortunate that they brought me in so I could learn so much over that couple year period.
It's dangerous, man. You're putting Jack Carr, letting Jack Carr learn new things.
I know. I'm always soaking it in. So
little do they know you're going to be running everything soon.
I don't know. I'm just thankful that we got one made, and I get to be part of the experience. So
maybe two.
We shall see. We shall see. But even if nothing else happens, learned a ton, wonderful experience. Even if nothing else separate from that happens in Hollywood, no, that's fine too. Just made some great friendships. That's what really stands out to me. The friendships that I made. And
who told us that? I think maybe it was Mark Rainey. He writes The Gray Man. He was like, he goes, I hope the movie does great and everything, because it's a huge advertisement for his books. Yeah, because he's an author. He's a writer. He's like, so sell more books.
It's a very expensive commercial. Yes. Yeah. That is it. Very expensive commercial. But yeah, there's one other one that I looked at, and the rights are already snagged up, but I won't say what it is. Somebody might do it, but I think it's probably too sensitive in today's day and age to do it right. So I think it's
interesting.
Yeah. So I think it's going to end up just gathering dust, unfortunately, because it would be really cool to do it again. But I'll keep that Secret Service stuff.
You tell me when you stop recording.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, awesome. Well, dude, it's been awesome talking to you, and we'll spend some time together. And like I said, that's why I love this podcast, is because we get to do this, and we wouldn't have put this on our calendars with everything that we have going on if not for a podcast. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for writing Drone Kings. Anyone who's listening to this, agents, publishers, check it out, read it, and take a risk on it. Man. It's not that big of a risk, because it's awesome. So
appreciate that, Jack.
Of course. It was a great read, and thank you for writing it. But I'm really excited about the second one. Hope you get that out and share that with me at some point, because I know how this one ends, obviously, and how it could lead into something else. And then also this historical fiction on the Civil War sounds fascinating, especially coming from someone like you who's so passionate about it. So I'm looking forward to reading that as well.
Dude, thanks for giving me the opportunity to come on and talk to you. I know we talk offline, and we've talked on the crew reviews, but being able to spend some time just talking about, a whole bunch of different things. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know you're a busy man. I know you're busy.
Well, so are you. You got another book to write. You got some kids to juggle, new job, and all that. At least you're not doing the Arnold competitions anymore. That's off the plate.
But I will tell you, my wife's like, "Hey, when are you gonna do one of those again? Because you look pretty good."
Oh, geez. Yeah.
It's like, 45. Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, sure.
Add that to, you can be in the Masters division.
Yeah, no, in the Secret Service, we call those hair bags. Yeah, look at the hair bag up there.
Really? Why is that?
It's just a hair bag. You're an old dude up there. Like, what are you doing? This is a young man's game. What are you doing? Get out of here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, brutal. Oh, yeah. Man. Well, awesome. Well, next time hopefully I'll see you in person at either, I don't know, BoucherCon or Thriller Fest next year. I think the next BoucherCon after this one is in San Diego, I think. And then Thriller Fest is in New York. So
New York. I'll be at the next Thriller Fest.
Okay.
Maybe the BoucherCon. Yeah. Nice. Maybe the next BoucherCon. Cool. But we'll definitely see you. We'll see you next year for your next book.
That's right. See you in the springtime for sure on the crew reviews. I got to go lock myself back in my cabin and finish that one up. So in the home stretch, but that's what I always say. In the home stretch, my wife is like, "Why didn't you just say that? You were just in the home stretch. Didn't you say you were almost done?" I'm like, "Well, these things are all.
It's always the home stretch.
Like how? Yeah, these things. Yeah. These are.
And do me a favor when you do write Secret Service guys into your books, make them good guys. Don't make him the guy that's the bad guy. Come on.
I know. I gotta worry. Well, there's some. Yeah. So sometimes, you never know. You never know how they're gonna end up. Do I have anybody in this next one? I'm trying to think if I have a Secret Service agent in this one. I might. I'm in a spot where I might. But I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if they're good or bad.
Just make him a good guy. Don't make him the guy that's gonna go and kill the president or some shit.
He fell for the honey trap. He wasn't as strong as you were. He fell for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's convincing.
Very powerful. Very powerful. Mm-hmm. So I'll keep that in mind.
Not for me, because my wife has a gun and she knows how to use it. She's actually a better shot than me. And
that's incentive right there.
We're fucking around.
That's right. That's it. Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, man, thanks so much for this. And thanks for all your support and the support of the crew reviews. And man, hopefully I'll see you soon.
Thanks, bud.
Awesome. Take care. Later, brother.
See you, bud.
A special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Navy Federal Credit Union. I've been a member since 1996. That is my first year in the military. And right now, when you become a member of Navy Federal Credit Union, life gets better. That's why they created a fully loaded car buying experience. I've bought cars and motorcycles using it in the past. You can finance, buy, protect, and enjoy your auto purchase all from one convenient place. They have pre-approval that's good for 90 days, so you know what you can afford while you shop. They also offer great auto loan rates. You can shop for new and used cars with Navy Federal's car buying service powered by TrueCar. You can also get exclusive member savings with Carfax, SiriusXM, and more. They're always available with 24/7 member service representatives to answer any questions. Learn more at NavyFederal.org/car buying. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Navy Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA. Check them out, NavyFederal.org. I want to thank my friends at Black Rifle Coffee for sponsoring the Danger Close podcast. I've been a huge fan for the longest time. Drink Black Rifle Coffee every day. And if you keep your eyes peeled, you will notice that perhaps Chris Pratt is wearing a Black Rifle Coffee t-shirt, not unsimilar to this one, in the Amazon series adaptation of The Terminal List. Now you can go to blackriflecoffee.com/dangerclose and use code DangerClose20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Keep crushing. Today's gear segment is sponsored by Schnees. And go to schnees.com, check out all they have going on. They have a ton of great things on their website. Check them out on Instagram. But today I want to talk about boots, because I love everything that they have going on up there, but I probably have 10 different pairs of their boots. But I started with these right here, the Granites. And I love these boots. I got my first elk in these muzzleloader hunt, New Mexico, about a decade ago. These are the exact same boots right here. So they have some miles on them. They have been to Alaska after bear, wolf, moose, and I just love these boots. So if I go into the backcountry and I have some weight on my back and I'm planning on coming out even a little heavier, then these are the boots that I take. I was wearing these in Kamchatka, Russia on a bear hunt where I went to do some research for Savage Son. And for those of you who know Savage Son, that's my third novel in the James Reese series. And you know, a lot of it takes place there. And then there's a little story that I fictionalized and dropped into Alaska in that story, near kind of closer to the beginning. But these are the boots that I wore. Absolutely love these boots right here, and love all the people at Schnees, and just can't say enough good things about them. But they are handcrafted in their Italian boot factory. That's right. You'll find no mass production machinery there, just a team of world-class boot makers doing their thing. Schnees only sells boots directly to you, the consumer. This means there is no middleman markup like other boot companies out there. That means that they can put higher emphasis on the materials that go into their boots, and you get more boot for the money. Higher quality materials and more boot for the money. From the leathers to the tread, every Schnees boot is made from the absolute finest materials available, backed by Schnees' industry-leading customer service and support. If you have a question or need a solid boot recommendation for your hunt, give them a call. You'll actually get a person on the line who wears the boots and is ready to help. There are a lot of boots out there in their lineup, so definitely give them a call. Let them know what you're going to be doing, and they can make a recommendation for you. When you shop at schnees.com, that is SCHNEES.com, make sure you use the promo code JACK21. When you do, you'll get 10% off your pair of Schnee's boots and logo wear. Again, that is SCHNEES.com, promo code JACK21. These handmade hunting boots usually sell out fast, so grab your pair today. Take care of your feet. Don't compromise. Upgrade to Schnee's today. Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. Look at this. Chuck Norris water. What? This is from Chuck Norris's ranch, CForce Water. Bam. That's pretty cool. Awesome. Chuck, thank you. Amazing. And look at these. These are the whiskey glasses. They were on the website yesterday for about a minute. So they went quickly. There will be more coming, but these are made from High West whiskey bottles, and I only get a certain number of those. I should probably start drinking more though. That way I can make more of these glasses, but cut off, sanded down, bam, right there. There will be more, but they're going to be in limited quantities because I just shouldn't be drinking that much, but bam, there they are. Awesome. Thank you for everybody who jumped on there and got them, and everybody else that didn't get them that wanted them. They will be back. Very cool. All right. What else is going on? Eberlestock. This jacket, man, awesome. Most people know Eberlestock for their backpacks, but there's a clothing line, and this down jacket is a part of that line. So Glenn Eberle was on the podcast not long ago, and he is an Olympian, veteran, and has the Eberlestock company. Awesome guy. Definitely follow him and his adventures on Instagram. He's always flying around in this amazing plane, doing all sorts of cool stuff. So thank you guys for sending this along. And Kansas City Cattle Company right here, veteran owned and operated. They sponsored the Terminal List podcast, where I break down each and every episode of the show with the showrunner and my buddy, former SEAL Jared Shaw, who plays Boozer in the series and is also a producer and technical advisor. And we had a great time. But Kansas City Cattle Company sponsored that, and they are such a great company. I mentioned to them that two veterans that I was in Normandy with recently this past June had never had fillets. And so they sent a huge care package of all sorts of stuff to these guys, and then followed it up with another huge care package that was just full of fillets. So these guys at 90 years old got their first fillets from veteran owned and operated Kansas City Cattle Company. So that was pretty cool. And over here, this is Send Me. It's a documentary, and you can find it now on Amazon, or you can go to sendmemovie.com, and right there, all proceeds from it, if there are any, go to back to helping those left behind in Afghanistan. So very powerful, extremely emotional. It is out now. Once again, it's on Amazon, but go to sendmemovie.com and check it out there. And until the next time, take care out there. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. To find out more about Chris Albanese, you can go to his website. That is CEALBANESE.com, and you can go follow him on the social channels from that website. Also follow at Crew Book Reviews on Twitter. See what they have going on. Listen to that podcast. You can follow me at Jack Carr USA on the social channels, officialjackcarr.com. That is the website. You can sign up for the newsletter there and click on shop for the merch. And if you enjoyed the conversation, be sure and leave a 5-star rating and review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until the next time, take care out there. Be safe, stay strong, keep fighting.